Great. Welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 14th day of October 2025. Just before we call our meeting to order, I just want to remind everyone this evening that this evening's meeting, as always, is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to the folks that are here this evening in council chambers. Welcome to the folks that are at home that are watching, and welcome to those that will watch at a later date, be it next week, next year, next millennium. So welcome to everyone. As always, we'll start this evening meeting off with their opening proceedings, which is the playing of the national anthem. So I'll ask those that have the ability to stand in council chambers to stand and face the cloud or the flag as we play our national anthem. Great, thanks. Thanks, folks. We'll begin this evening's meeting with our closed session. We had a closed session meeting earlier this evening, so we'll look for a motion to rise and report from closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. This evening, I would like to report that in closed session, Council approved the closed session minutes of September 23rd, received a report regarding a proposed volunteer fire union collective agreement, received a report regarding contract negotiations and gave direction to staff, and received a report regarding an HR matter and gave direction to staff. Having said that, we'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Oh, sorry. Madam Clerk has reminded me we do have another motion that we'll be looking for a mover and a seconder. That council ratify the proposed collective agreement between the Town of Greater Napanee and CLAC Local 920 for a term from the date of ratification to September 30th, 2028, and further that council authorize the mayor and the CAO to execute that agreement. Moved by Councillor Norrie, second by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Now we'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Hicks, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none. Presentations. This evening we have a couple of presentations. The first being the 2023 audited financial statements. I believe Mr. Grant and Ms. Hamill will give us an update on the greatly awaited 2023 audited financial statements. So whenever you get settled in there, Ellen, the floor will be yours.
So thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. And we also have our auditors here today from KPMG, of which we're grateful. So just to start us out this evening, I would say that council will notice that the 2023 audited financial statements are significantly late. What council will be aware of, but not necessarily members of the public, is that there was a tremendous amount of work by current staff to address the work of those that no longer work at the municipality as one of the elements of this. There was some significant work and challenges for both our staff and auditing staff to go through previous work and do some significant financial detective work to write our books and get us to a place where they were correct. And I'm pleased to say that work has been done. I will say, without getting into details, as a result of this, we did incur some HR action and some legal action, and those matters have been concluded. And I just wanted to extend my thanks to KPMG and to the treasurer and her staff for the tremendous work that they have done. In addition to those challenges, there were some other legislative changes which lent themselves to some of the work that had to occur. But with that, I'll turn it over to the treasurer, who will in turn turn it over to our auditors.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Alan.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to members of council, and ultimately through to the public. So as the CAO has highlighted, we did encounter a number of challenges preparing for and ultimately landing on financial statements. And there were a lot of pieces that went into those challenges as outlined in the report. Some of it had to do with staff challenges and some of the vacancies that came to be as a result of that. We had some inconsistent and incomplete reconciliations, what made it challenging for existing staff to go through and get caught back up. And as the CEO mentioned, doing some detective work, just kind of trying to drill into accounts and get an understanding of what were in accounts and what those entries were, just from an accounting standpoint, as we weren't familiar with them, as it wasn't a year that we were involved in or employed during that period of time. So we had some extra legwork to do in that area, which just took additional time as we became familiar with the accounts. Some other more significant challenges that we had were some of the accounting standards that changed during that year. So 2023 saw a number of different financial changes in accounting standards. Significantly or specifically, there was AROs, so asset retirement obligations, which we were now required to report on, which did require quite a lot of planning, some consulting work, and ultimately entries that were required on our statements in 2023, and they will be impactful over the years to come as we have to report for that liability going forward. Another big undertaking that staff took during the 2023 fiscal year, the work was done in 2024 and into 2025, was updating our tangible capital asset reporting, so our TCA. That was highlighted as a significant deficiency. I apologize if you were unable to hear previously. Hopefully this audio is better now. Most of which I've spoke about, the CAO has already covered in his opening statements, and all of it is outlined in the report for council and public's information. I was talking about our requirement to update our tangible capital asset reporting. So previously, our TCA registry was conducted in Excel, which needed an overhaul and into something a little more accurate to be able to account for the requirements of PSAS. So we did that work and updated our tangible capital assets into PSD Citywide, which is a software that supports that type of reporting. There was a lot of work that went into getting our opening balances to coincide with the previous year financial statements. We do still have work to do in that area, but we are hopeful that the progress that we've made in the 2023 audit has prepared us well to move forward in 2024 and beyond. But that was another large piece of the puzzle that took a significant amount of staff time and resources to be able to support that. Again, as outlined in the report, we've made some good strides going forward. We are in a much better position than we were previously in terms of our deep understanding of the books and the financial requirements that we had to come up to standard with the accounting changes. And we've implemented a number of process changes and enhanced internal controls, which we will continue to do over the coming years. As you know, the 2024 financial statements do still need to be completed, and 2024 has come and gone. So some of this will still flow through into the 2024s, but we're hopeful, or we're certain that the statements won't take as long as they did in 2023. And again, things will just be able to progress in a more timely and a more efficient manner going forward. And we're confident in our abilities to do that. So I appreciate all of council's patience as we worked through this, as with staff. It's been a big learning experience for both myself and all of the finance team. And we look forward to putting to use the things that we've learned during this audit process.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Ellen. Is there any questions or comments for Alan or Mr. Grant with respect to the report or the presentation that we've heard so far? Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
The only thing I'll say is your report, there was no major surprises to, I would assume most of council, but the issues identified, they've been all resolved and everything else. And we're extremely happy the way, now that we know exactly what we're doing, when we're doing, and how we're doing, where it's going. So thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Shank. Deputy Mayor Calver.
Yeah, thank you through your worship. Just wanted to thank Ellen and her team for all the hard work and effort they've put into getting us to where we are today, and definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is there anything else? Seeing none, and I'll reiterate what everyone else has said, Alan. Thank you for your diligence on this. I'm sure that you will have far more sleepful nights in the not too distant future as opposed to where you probably didn't in the past. So thank you for you and your team for taking the bull by the horns and getting this thing sorted out. And it is greatly appreciated by both council and the community. So thank you. Having said that, we'll look for a motion to note and receive the Financial IT Services Report 2023 audited financial statements. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Next up, we have a presentation of the 2023 draft audited financial statements, and we have Ms. Laura Huber here, as well as Kara Princeton, I think, who will give Laurie some help if she needs it, but I kind of don't think that she probably will. So welcome, Laurie. I know you've probably been here before. Just a bit of the Reader's Digest version. The button on the right is the talk button. You have to hold it, and when you're talking, so you can't just push it and let it up. You have to actually push down and hold it. If not, then folks text us and yell at us and say, I can't hear what she's got to say. We want to hear what she's got to say. So welcome, and whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's my real pleasure to finally be here to present to you the results of our audit for the year ended December 31, 2023. As part of your package here tonight, you would have seen a fairly lengthy report. I can assure you I won't go through each of the pages in detail, but certainly we'll pull out the things that I think are likely to be most meaningful to you. And certainly, as always, I'd welcome any questions from the group if there are any. So we will start on page number 5. I'm going to say this is going to be tricky, holding the button and holding this. We'll do the best we can. So if we go to page number, actually, you know what I'll do is maybe I'll just call it the page numbers in front. That might be easier if that works for everyone. So I don't
Yeah, if you call it out, and maybe Shannon, can you give us a hand by getting it onto the right page? Perfect. There you go.
Perfect. I am a person that typically uses her hands, so this is different. So where we are today with respect to the audit is we are essentially complete. When we issued this report last week, we had a few administrative items to come forward. Those have now come forward, being the legal responses. Legal activity is certainly something that goes with the audit hand in hand. The audit window does stay open, believe it or not, until council accepts and approves the financial statements. So that means that we have a duty and an obligation as your external auditor to keep this subsequent event window open right up until the audit report date. So to the extent anything that is new and different that impacts 2023, that window still stays open. And I say that because one of the things that we are waiting for as of last week was one of the legal letter responses. We always write to legal to make sure that we see the completeness of claims that are in the books relative to the claims that are out there. We did identify one item that came back in one of those legal letter responses that is not material, fortunately. So we've included that on our list, if you will, of an uncorrected item, just over $30,000. And so that will be something that will flow through in 2024. But all of those have now been received. So we really are in a position to be complete, save for council's approval of the financial statements. Moving along on the next slide, I won't go into a lot of detail, but just as a reminder to the group, this is only our second year as your external auditor. And so just as a reminder of what a KPMG audit approach looks like, it is very much a risk-based approach, meaning standing back, looking at a financial statement as a whole. For a municipality, we do, believe it or not, audit more than 30 municipalities out of our Kingston office. So we do have the benefit of the depth and breadth to seeing a lot of municipal financial statements. And so there is a lot of commonalities, and then we certainly adopt for any nuances in any individual municipalities. So at a high level, municipal financial statements tend to be low risk. What you will see on the page in front of you are certain unique items that might have jumped out at you. So in any financial statement audit, we are required to deal with the presumed risk of fraud inherent in any financial statement audit in Canada. So you can't make that go away. It's a presumption in the profession. It's automatically deemed to be significant. So there's nothing that you could absolutely do to change that, even if you had the best internal controls in the world. I get that a lot from council, so I say it that way, because you might have been thinking that. So we are required to do work around that each and every year, which we'll see in the report that we have done no significant findings. The other two pieces that might have jumped out at you, which the treasurer has already addressed really in her opening remarks, is really around some of the previous year's observations specifically related to tangible capital assets. So that would be something that we've considered as part of our audit this year, other than low risk or base, based on the complexities that we experienced in 2022. And then, of course, the beast of the year being asset retirement obligations, which was a fairly comprehensive new standard that was required to be adopted in 2023 because it was new and different. That automatically put us something above base. So those are sort of the preamble in terms of what a KPMG audit looks like. In terms of the findings, you will see I've given you a lot of background around the asset retirement obligation because it was a fairly comprehensive exercise across the municipal group to undertake this in 2023. The team did employ the use of consultants and to come up with some of the data that was required to be derived in the calculation. So our audit has included all of those pieces as well. And ultimately, it takes me 2 pages, but ultimately we did agree with the management's assessment of what the liability looks like. And just in case you're wondering, in non-accountant jargon, the asset retirement obligation is something that is going to need to be reevaluated in the future. It's in your statements now, and it will be going forward. There was always a landfill piece on your books related to the remediation of the landfill. It looks significantly different now. You used to be able to take the benefit of how much capacity you had used relative to the total. That calculation or proration is now gone, which is why when you look at your balance sheet, it's gone up from 700,000 to about 5 million. Most of that is the landfill because you don't get the benefit of usage over time. It's now. And then the other piece, which is a very new component, which never was previously contemplated in financial statements, was the exercise to undertake through the TCA portfolio, your tangible capital assets, to the extent there might be asbestos in buildings. That was something that was now in scope, never included in your financial statements previously. So the team had to undertake an exercise to come up with a calculation of items in the portfolio where that would apply. So that's how you suddenly get a dramatically different asset retirement obligation or landfill liability on your statements for 2023, and then that will be remeasured each and every year. The other piece that Ellen had referred to in her report is on page number 10 of our report. You will see that there is a new actuarial valuation that was required for employee future benefits. When an organization provides benefits post-employment, the accounting standards require you to have an actuarial determination of what that liability looks like and put on the books. So that was put on this year of about $480,000. So that was certainly a new ticket item that has driven down your surplus in year. One of the other observations that we've made on page number 11 of our report, and this is kind of interesting as we're going across the group, it's always interesting to look at the cash in the bank. I know that's something that is always of importance to council relative to your liabilities. So we've certainly made an observation there in terms of cash management and liquidity. And you've also got a significantly high, I would suggest, number sitting there in your unfinanced capital, which means you've made capital investments that weren't funded, essentially. So again, an observation, as we have the benefit of looking across the group, that I know something the team will certainly be mindful of moving forward as you think about financial management and longer term financial plans. What we didn't talk about, because it didn't impact the numbers, but on top of asset retirement obligations, as if one wasn't enough, there was a second new suite of standards that you'll see in our report specifically related to financial instruments. So if you did read through the financial statements, there's lots of new disclosures in there specifically around financial risks like interest rate risk, liquidity risk, and so on. So that was also contemplated in 2023, and certainly we're comfortable with the adoption that the team has made in that regard. In terms of the quality of the books and records, if we move our way along to page number 13, that's where we get into the audit misstatements. So before we get into the detail, just as a reminder to the group, any financial statement audit doesn't look at every single transaction. Although it did take a long time to get here, we still did not look at all of the transactions. We audit to a level of materiality. And so what that means is we, through the handbook, are required to go anywhere up to 3% of your gross activity on your statement of operations. So in your case, that would be total expenses. So that calculation led us to an overall financial reporting materiality of $600,000. In the previous year, it was $500,000. So what that means is as we aggregate misstatements that are not corrected in the books, as we get closer to that materiality number, that's where it could have an impact on our audit report. We have given you a detailed listing of all of the audit adjustments, and unfortunately, there were a lot that were identified through the course of our audit work. You will see in the back of our report, 18 items were corrected that are included in the financial statements. 5 remain uncorrected, so that would be a total of 23 items. However, the net impact of all of those 5 items do not reach the level of materiality, so it is appropriate from our perspective to not impact our audit report, so you still are getting an audit clean report for 2023, and those will flow through your financial statements in 2024. We spend an awful lot of time focusing on the numbers, but a financial statement audit does require us to look at control deficiencies. And so as part of an audit, we need to sit down with the team, gain an understanding of the systems, processes, and controls that culminate into the financial statements, specifically around those related to financial reporting. So we've done that again this year. As we reflect on the presentation for 2022, at that time, we had made the determination with the quality of the books and records specifically related to tangible capital assets, we had identified a significant deficiency. Pleased to say the team has done a fair bit of work, or a lot of work, I would say, if I could see you, Ellen, I know you did. And certainly that is certainly progressing in the right direction, but we have made the determination this year specifically related to financial reporting in aggregate. Based on the delays, the timing, the adjustments, all of those things certainly culminate together to suggest to us that we believe there is a significant deficiency. However, certainly have had lots of robust conversations with the team and feeling certainly quite confident and quite comfortable that there's certainly a very different plan forward to remedy the 2024 financial statements. And actually, we are slated to start the 2024 audit actually next month. So certainly feeling confident that that is something that will look significantly different when hopefully I'm sitting here early in 2026. If we move ourselves along, I'll stop briefly on page number 20 as our independent slide. So as you know, the beauty that we bring to the table is really that external set of eyes coming in from the outside to take a hard look at the numbers and the financial statements and the systems and processes. To be able to do that properly, we need to maintain our independence. So to the extent we might provide any non-audit services to the organization through the course of the year, we certainly can. We just need to be mindful that we are never putting ourselves in a position of management and auditing our own work. Certainly very much aware of the work that we as a firm have done relative to other areas of the business outside of the audit of the financial statements, but pleased to say we have a robust system of internal controls. Certainly, I'm very much aware of what the work has been done by the firm, and certainly there's been nothing from our point of view that might be thought to encroach our independence that might have been a question as well. So moving along in the back of our report, page number 23, Appendix 1A, that's where you will see really the culmination of a lot of hard work over a number of months, which is our draft auditor's report. It is the same report that's included at the start of the financial statements, and it is a clean audit report. So in our opinion, we believe the financial statements do present fairly in all material respects the financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2023. There is a new addition in there this year specifically related to the change in accounting policies, specifically asset retirement obligations, because it was such a material change. We are required to include that in the year of adoption, but that will certainly go away, but it is standard language in this instance. Behind there, if you are interested, is what we call a management representation letter, which is essentially the letter, hopefully, the management team will provide us later this week that will essentially say to us that they've provided us with all of the information that was required for us to do a complete and fulsome audit. And attached there, of course, is the listing of all of the adjusting journal entries that have been included in the financial statements. Those are likely the highlights that I wanted to bring to bear tonight as part of this presentation. There's lots of other things in there too, but I don't want to take up too much time. So if I may, Your Worship, I will stop here and welcome any questions from the group.
Great, thanks, Laurie. Is there any questions or comments for Laurie with respect to the report that's in front of us or the presentation that she's so eloquently done? I don't think yep, go ahead, Mike.
Purchase of capital assets through unfunded capital what previously had happened. You see a correction of what this municipality's been doing now, that we're not going down that same road.
Through you, Your Worship, I can certainly address that question, and maybe perhaps the treasurer might want to speak to their plans to address that as well. So what I would say is that that's often a function of timing in terms of when the funding comes in relative to when the acquisitions are made. You can see it included in the financial statements, which is part of your accumulated surplus. And I don't have it in front of me just yet, but I want to say your number is north of $8 million. So that's not insignificant. And really, that's the plan forward on how you're going to fund those pieces. And so what I would say is it's, again, part of the longer term financial plan. So I see Ellen wants to say something there as well.
Thank you, Lori. To council, yes, so we do have an annual budget allocation that goes back into repaying our unfinanced capital. The 2026 budget is currently drafted at 700,000. Last year we were around 645,000. So we do have a significant annual repayment going to ensure that we pay down that unfunded capital.
Great, thanks, Ellen. Yep. Is there anything else,
Just
Mike?
for everybody else, when you look at page 11, this is the observation. That's the one that kind of, I go, oh, yeah. I can't fix what was done past, but I can only go from what we've gone forward. So this one here kind of sticks in your throat a bit. So.
Great, thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? I don't think so. So thank you, Laurie. We greatly appreciate your firm getting us to ground zero. And I think it's fairly safe to say that we won't go down the trail that we went down before, let's put it that way. It's refreshing to see that as I think we all understood or thought that you know, there was no money gone missing, there was no heinous frauds that took place. It would appear, as from my reading of the report, that it just wasn't managed very well at the time. So I appreciate the work that you and your firm have done here. I appreciate the work, you know, and the work that you've done. I know you've probably burned out cell phones talking directly with our finance people here, and so it's refreshing to see a good, clean audit, and that we're moving forward in a way that we need to move forward. And so I just want to thank you for that. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Having said that, we do have a recommendation that the presentation of the audit findings report for the year ended December 31st, 2023 be received, and further that the presentation of the draft consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023 be received, and further that the consolidated draft financial statements of the Corporation of the Town of Greater Napanee for the year ended December 31st, 2023 be approved. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you, ladies. You're more than welcome to stick around, or I think I know the answer. So, yeah, we do have some riveting stuff coming forward, but I'm sure that there's probably something else you could be doing. So, thank you again. Next up, we have a presentation from the Ad Hoc Trail Committee. Tom Tussell and Dave Milligan. So, come on up, fellas. Welcome, welcome again, Tom and Dave. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version again. The button on the right is the talk button. So whenever you want to talk, you push the button, hold it down. And once again, because if you don't, then I get yelled at. So not that I don't mind getting yelled at once in a while, but whenever you're ready, the floor will be yours.
Okay. Well, you've got the Tom and Dave show following the very professional financial audit. We'll try and keep the quality up. Thank you for inviting us back. This is it's kind of a brief presentation to reorient you to where we hope to go with our Trails Committee. So it's a brief summary of the work of the Trails Committee and an outline of the in-town and out-of-town trail. And we're just going to tag team back and forth.
And so once again, thank you very much for giving us this time to speak again tonight. Hopefully we're not essentially going over the same material. We're going to talk about the same type of stuff we spoke about previously, but we've added in some other work and some new, I guess, some new things that we've come up with. So I hope this isn't more of the same old again, but anyways, the way that we're going to give this presentation tonight is we're going to outline our group, our mandate that was given to us from council, the summary of the vision for the trail network in Napanee, and then the maps of the proposed trail development that, that we've came up with as a committee or as a ad hoc committee. But, this is merely just a starting point of the futures of trail development within Napanee.
Dave and I were chatting outside before we came in, and one of the things we realized is that if you have a group that has good communication, some spirit of readiness to compromise, and coming forth in a spirit of trying to make the town better, we can succeed. And I think we're getting there. Our group is made up of Dave, Sean Davey, Mark Hamill, Liz Tuzel, Mike Sewell, and myself, with a ton of help from Diana Tyner and lots of help from Matthew. You've been really things don't move forward without your professionalism and your understanding of how things work. We're voices in the wilderness, and you've kind of got us organized and moving.
So our mandate, why we came together, I think most of the people here will remember our May 11th meeting, other than maybe Matthew, who wouldn't have been with the town at that time. We had a meeting. I think everyone that came that night expected like a UFC match, and maybe we didn't. I think we let down. Yeah. So we not really apologize for that, but and to kind of piggyback that, like, I think like what I've learned or what I've seen throughout this process is that collaboration is necessary, and it goes a long way in actually completing anything. And there's a lot of people, not necessarily, I'm not talking about the people in this room, because I think you're all doing a fantastic job. I'm talking about some national leaders that could actually learn a thing or two about collaboration. But our mandate from the May 11th meeting was to map out the possible in-town trails that would ultimately link the major recreational facilities, schools, shopping areas, workplaces, etc. We wanted to create a future vision of active transportation. We're merely just scratching the surface here. This is a long-term project that we anticipate will grow and mature as the town develops and grows.
So you're going to hear this a few times tonight, but this is the vision. We hope to create a north-south and an east-west trail corridor with links to all the things that people usually go to, so that we can have a less automobile-dependent town. One of our goals is to create trails that an unsupervised 10-year-old could be on. So that means speeds need to be controlled, and lighting needs to be good, and that sort of thing. And our part of our vision too is to see a future where any development that comes down the pike would include a nod to active transportation and becoming a willing participant in that active transportation network or grid.
So the vision that we've came up with is a town where young and young at heart want to live. We envision a town with less dependence on automobiles, envision multiple intersecting coordinated safe trail links between public schools, public spaces, schools, recreation facilities, shopping, commercial areas, some of which already exist. And the neat thing about the people that were in this group is that some of the people that are talking about less dependence on automobiles, we understand that within this town, some of the people on this group use very large automobiles. We use very large, wide, heavy automobiles to get pieces of equipment through town. So we also need those wide corridors, but there also needs to be connecting links between places that are safe, quiet, accessible for anyone in town. So the next couple slides is what we've essentially shown this. We've changed. I think the first map has already, some of the work has already been started. We've already previously presented estimates of costs. The scope of the work is going to include the removal of the existing rails, the addition of aggregates, vegetation management, and then of course some options such as lighting, benches, parking areas that we seem as being necessary. So the map, I think, there we go. The map that is in front of you here, this is essentially kind of what we looked at as the low-hanging fruit. The easiest one to start out with, essentially, where we're going to start from Derry Avenue, loop up, cross County Road 1, in behind the church, prior to the 401 old railway bridge. We're going to hook down to Church Street, follow along to where on County Road 1, where the town is putting fill in there from the new municipal waste project that's going on. Follow down through into the cemetery trail, and ultimately our goal is to follow that down and connect with Springside Park. We have it just as a loop right now going around the cemetery, but our ultimate goal, which is going to require more resources, is to connect this trail down to Springside Park. Mainly because Springside, we feel like, moves east and west. If we could connect this, we could possibly start the connection of the whole town. So the next map is going to outline the alternate route to Strathcona, which was part of our mandate from that May 11th meeting, was to come up with alternate routes to have a connecting link to Strathcona. So the development of this trail will require a safe route under over the 401, which we've had meetings with Matthew, and I'm sure Matthew, town staff, has been in communication with MTO and is already kind of speaking on behalf of the town in trying to ensure this corridor, that the location is safe for passengers. Determining the actual route of the northern link is going to be very important with that corridor that is going to get us under or over the 401. The only way that a connecting link to Strathcona actually works, that I think we've all learned throughout this process since this ad hoc committee was formed, was that the cooperation from the rural landowners is mandatory in making any such link work. It's the same as the snowmobile trail that crosses over many different landowners. That trail does not exist without the cooperation. Merely trying to push something through is not feasible. We've had the snowmobile trail across our family farm and properties for decades, generations, with very little problems where they are, but it takes a lot of communication, collaboration, and that's how that is successful, the snowmobile trail. There's already a natural loop that's visible on the map here that I'll explain a little bit, and if there's any questions, I can definitely answer as best possible. So this map here is essentially the one that we've presented and spoke on. Myself and Tom, I believe Mike Sewell and Mark Hamill have spoke on it as well. There's a natural loop that ultimately, if we can get across the 401 somewhere between essentially Center Street and the old railway bridge, if we can get across there or a corridor there, we can connect this thing very, very simply on the north side. There's still going to be some needed collaboration among landowners to actually get this off of the ditch and off of the shoulder of the road. Our vision was to move the fence back, come inside, and do a natural scenic passageway to connect to Strathcona. Not running in the ditch, not running on the shoulder of a road. This was meant to be across multiple landowners to make this work. There's also another link which I spoke about. If we can connect the Riverside Trail down to Springside, there's a lot of development that is going to happen out the Palace Road. A lot of new houses are being built just off of Palace Road. There's going to be more heading out Palace Road. We need to keep that in mind for another loop to be able to connect this whole thing together as a circle. We have it dropping down into Newburgh. There's already a trail that runs through there where the dotted line is. Most of us have probably been down that trail before. It's great. I mean, we four-wheeled down it, we've snowmobiled down it. It's a fine trail. To make it accessible for people on bikes, for strollers, there would need to be some work done. But if we don't talk about this now, these connecting links, when the 401 is getting expanded, we won't have a chance to do so when they're changing bridges, overpasses. Now's the time to actually lay out these routes for future considerations. Otherwise, we won't stand a chance later on.
So we're hoping that as development occurs and wherever it occurs, that we actively guide those development projects to include active transportation. And I don't think that's going to be difficult. There was I believe at one time when a developer came to town, there was an option of a cash in lieu of parkland development. And I don't know if that's still an option, but we were hoping that option might disappear. That if you're developing, then some of your responsibility as a developer would be to participate in making the town better. Again, we're gonna talk about this. We want a full network in town. We've outlined two options. One is a pretty simple one in town, and the other is a more ambitious goal, but an achievable goal, and mostly because that the snowmobile trail is there, and Dave has agreed that fences can be moved. We could move a little bit off Goodyear Road and work on, develop a nice road into Strathcona. And then ultimately we'd like to connect all those things, the schools, so kids can go to school on a trail, the rec facilities. So on soccer night, there could be 100 bikes on the way to a soccer field. Easy ways to shopping, to the arena, all those sorts of things. Some of those trails could be on pristine land that is being developed, and some of them could be on existing roads. I've always thought that Thomas Street is a really wide corridor, and with good safety features, we might be able to do something there as an east-west corridor. We've outlined just the two, the in-town trail south of the 401 and then the northern route. But we're, you know, the group is certainly prepared, and we've had endless discussions about other possibilities. So there's lots of work to be done, and I won't belabor this, but I think some of that work needs to be done in policy development, and some of it needs to be done in physical development of the trails. We have lots of people willing to help, and lots of people willing to do the planning. We're not sure where you want to go, and this will be thrown over to you guys in terms of, we're an ad hoc committee, which we keep some minutes, but I don't think they get widely circulated. Not a lot of people know what we're doing except through these presentations. So it may be time, I'm not telling you how to do your jobs, it may be time to create a more formalized committee. The impression from the people that I know, one of whom I live with on the rec committee, is that there's a big mandate there. I mean, it's an ambitious committee and a lot of stuff going on. So I'm not, whether this is a subcommittee of that, I'm not sure it could function just within that committee, but you guys can think about that one. And given the, so the makeup of a committee needs some thought. We certainly, having town staff on it really makes it much more effective. Having counselors on it, having private citizens on it would be worthwhile. And given that we're going to be nudging into Loyalist and Stone Mills, it may be something where we want to pull together a wider committee so that we're all rowing in the same direction. And I think that committee should be involved, or at least have some notification of new developments that are happening, because we might be able to, we would look at those things with an eye of, okay, how do we connect to the wider grid? What is the future 3 years from now, 8 years from now, 22 years from now? If each new development can feed into the wider goal of a active transportation grid, then I think it'll take care of itself.
So I'll second what Tom's living partner thinks about the rec committee, because I sit on the rec committee, and that is a wide mandate of things to look after. We've been 3 years in existence now, this committee, and Brian is the chair on the committee, or now it's Sean Davey. Matthew sits in, and I'd like to say that committee has changed from, at the start of the committee, when it was formed, it seemed like there was going to be a lot of butting heads, to where now we meet, and I would say 95% of the meeting is very constructive, open dialogue with people that come from all different backgrounds and ways of thinking. But somehow we always come away from that meeting with a very constructive conclusion, I feel like, anyways, at the end of it. So, but definitely there is a lot of talk on trails that, we don't have enough time during those meetings to do. So anyways, and our final thoughts, I guess, in building these trails and connecting the town together, you're going to have, the ability for people to go to groceries on bikes, walking, scooters, however they want to travel. Kids can go to schools on safer routes than, up the by the golf course. I mean, it's a busy road. It's not I drive my kids to school there, and it's not a nice road to walk on. Families can be out together. Air should be cleaner. Town will be quieter. More eyes and hearts will cast on local treasures, and people will be happy and healthier. I'd also like to say, it's funny how this committee was formed and everyone wanted a boxing match, and we didn't give them one. And the first maybe year of the meeting, it wasn't Matthew that was around, it was Brant Zatterberg, and he did act as a referee a little bit, I would say, at the start. I think until we kind of everyone understood everyone's perspective and where they came from, why they had issue with certain things. And, you know, after being in existence for these years that we've been in existence, you know, I've talked to Mike Sewell numerous times on different ideas, different things I've seen and traveling in Montreal, being in PI, some of the trails that they have, some of the links that they have. And Mike's also been out to my farm and he said, hey, I totally understand why this isn't a good fit here. You know, I understand why. You know, it's interesting how people can come together if they actually listen to one another rather than have a boxing match. So anyways.
Thanks very much. We're happy to take any questions and further discussion.
Yep, great. Thanks, gentlemen. Just hang tight and we'll see if any members of council have any questions. I know there's going to be some, and then we're going to try and figure out a path forward as well. So go ahead, Councillor Harris.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. Thank you for coming out tonight, and I always like the refresher, so that was good. My question is about the North Loop. So north of the 401 and then out to Strathcona, I think it was page 10. So the blue line, approximately, and I'm going to look at Dave for this, approximately how many landowners, individual landowners, and I understand that they may not all own consecutive property, it may be chunks here and there, but how many landowners are we talking about?
You're talking about 4. Mainly it's gonna run by our farm on the north side. And in saying by our farm, my plan is, and what I've spoke to the landowner beside our farm, which is my mom and stepfather, is about moving the fence in, allowing a passageway. Then you have Goodyear, which Goodyear already allows a snowmobile trail across them. So I don't think Goodyear is going to be a problem to cut through their front yard. Then you get into the solar property. That one, I don't know who the contact is there, but definitely there would need to be some dialogue there. And then you're into Rob Sutton, which Rob, I've spoke many times with Rob about this, and he's all ears. He's open to whatever on the north end of his farm that doesn't impact his main operation with a trail running right by his dairy barn. So he's as open to this as I am, and I would say the only landowner that we would need to speak with would be the solar property there.
Well, that was a lot easier than I was expecting when you look at the property and like where there's potential property lines. So, okay, so that's good. And just, if everybody cooperated, everybody picked a day and moved a fence, how long would it take roughly?
Me and Mike, we actually drove the John Deere Gator around and had a look at this loop, because where there's a checkered loop there, that's actually town-owned land. So that's part of the industrial park there. So our thoughts was, if we could get across 401 and into that area, you could actually run a small loop there where you pick up where there's going to be future industrial buildings being built. It won't just be Goodyear in the future out there, where you could have a loop for people that are at work, want to go for a walk, they could go for a walk. The rest of the trail, I mean, you're talking not a lot of work to make this happen at all. I mean, we looked at it and we said, realistically, we could make this work right away. If we didn't have communication with a solar company right away, so we run it right where the snowmobile trail goes for right now, until we can get it shoved in somehow, or a loop around them. Like a lot of the trails that I've looked at and spoke to Mike and my cousin and Sean Davey about, even at the May 11th meeting, we heard from different people where they have a trail, then they have to deke around something because something happened, property changed owners. I've seen that in the snowmobile trails. Every year there's a bit of an alteration. Ideally, we would want the whole thing off of the road, but if we had to run by one property where the snowmobile trail does for now, I still think we've connected this thing. We've done something that has been talked about for what, 30 years and hasn't been done. So
Some of it too might depend on how nice a surface we want, right? So laying out the trail is one thing. Roughing out a trail, pretty easy to do. But if you want, 4 inches of aggregate and some crushed stone on top, that's where money, time, and dump trucks and stuff is required.
Okay. I'll leave it there. I'm sure there's other questions, but thank you.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Ange. Is there any other questions or comments for either Tom or Dave? I'll go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. Has anybody been in contact with Loyalist or Stone Mills? Because some of these proposed trails are, going in and out of. Have you made any contact with them to see if there's any trail work that they're talking about or thinking about? Or
So that's why, Brian, I guess in the one slide there, we talked about reaching out to other municipalities. The only communication that's been had has been unofficial conversations with Stone Mills about what they envision going forward. I haven't spoke with anyone in Loyalist, and that's why it's kind of, it really isn't in our place. I don't feel like we felt to step out and speak on behalf of town. We kind of just looked within our mandate and tried to stick within our township for now, Brian. But moving forward, 100%, we need communication with the local townships.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is the Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm really impressed with you guys, what you've explained to us here tonight. We as a council were dealing not too long ago with whether to declare the rail line as surplus property and then eventually sell it. But I was always of the opinion that we should, even if we couldn't do anything with it in the near future, that we should be able to preserve it for future generations. And I think that's our responsibility. I like your idea of what you're talking about with moving the fence in, because I also feel for your situation there on the farm, because that rail line goes too close to your buildings there. I know, in your house. So I'm glad that through cooperation, I guess, or whatever, you've kind of laid out what you can do in the future to have a northern trail. I don't know how long in the future that's going to take, but and I hope that the province gets rid of that old bridge there, and we can loop it down. And I'm hoping that they're going to widen that bridge going County Road 1, where we can have a pedestrian crossover on that bridge to get across the 401 there. Dave, were you talking about like moving your fence line in on County Road 1 and having the trail just inside of that there? Is that what you're talking?
So no, Bill, what I'm talking about is if we can cross on the north, if we can cross between essentially Center Street, anytime you drive down Center Street and you see people trying to get north of the town here, that bridge is narrow and there's transports flying through there. I mean, it's just, it's not a nice place to drive down, let alone to walk or bike down. So between there and the old railway bridge, if we had a corridor to get to the north side of the 401, on the north side of the 401, then we would push in and we would be a long ways away from our buildings, from our feed storage, from our water supply, everything, where you're going to have trespassing 100%. With any of these trails, snowmobile trails, you have trespassing. Not a big deal if it's at the back end of the farm where someone's not walking through the barn where your animals are. Like, and that's the thing, Bill, I guess, is it's not necessarily a problem with any of our family members, the proximity to the houses. It's more so taking care of our animals. That is the biggest thing. Where this rail line used to run, I mean, it's very close to the proximity of where our cattle are kept. One gate gets left open, those cattle are on the 401. I mean, that is why we stopped using certain pastures on the farm because there's an old quarry that Tomlinson has bought, and it used to be such a hangout for teenagers to go and swim. I mean, we all swam there as kids. And gates got left open, our cows were on the 401, and we were liable. So we had to move over a pasture, keep them away from that quarry because you just simply, it wasn't safe. So essentially, the proximity, and that's how this communication started between myself, Rob Sutton, because the rail line, it has to go through Rob, it has to go through Strathcona Paper, it has to go through the solar company. Rob Sutton and Strathcona have said, no, Strathcona uses it daily for their waste disposal of the pulp for recycling. They put it in big, long piles, they churn it, they break it down, and then they spread it on the fields. And Rob Sutton said, no, why would I, of course, not want people right beside my barn? But the north end of the property, where the snowmobile trail runs now, sure. You know, is it going to be a problem now and then? Yeah, there's going to be problems. There always is problems. But is it something that you can move past? 100%. You know, when it's not right beside your feed storage, your animals, it's not a problem of the proximity of houses as much as it is taking care of the livestock. If we don't take care of the livestock, they don't take care of us, and we don't exist that way.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. Like I say, I appreciate the fact that there's cooperation there, and it's not a yes or no situation. It's you've created solutions to the problems. So I really appreciate you guys and what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you very much for that answer, Dave.
Thanks, Councilor Martin. Is there anything else before I'll weigh in briefly, as briefly as I can anyways. Go ahead, Councilor Hicks.
Thank you, through your worship. Some of the, I don't know if legislative is the correct word, but I can see where the need for an actual committee is needed with staff's help, but I can see where ad hoc, it just doesn't have the formality that an actual committee of council does. What is needed in order to move forward with that? I'm asking the question because the question was basically raised, so I'm going to ask it for you of Jessica and council.
I think that question probably be answered if we asked council or staff to bring back a report afterwards, as opposed to putting anybody on the spot right now, Ange. But you're just about got ahead of me here. So, but that's what I would suggest there. And we'll tidy this thing up here shortly. But I appreciate the question because that's one that I was going to ask anyway. So
then I will gratefully defer to his worship to continue. Thank you.
great. Thanks, Ange. Is there anything else? I'm going to weigh in briefly. I just want to thank you, gentlemen, the same as and the ad hoc committee that was formed. You know, the conversations we're having this evening are where, at least in my mind, I had hoped we would have gotten to, because we now have a plan forward. I really do think that we have a very viable plan forward to put, and there's no sense in sugarcoating it, is this is going to be infrastructure for our municipality. It really is. It's infrastructure that we're going to build, right? So I want to thank you folks for doing the work that you've done. And I agree with Councillor Hicks, and we'll instruct staff to bring something back. But I think it probably would warrant a standalone committee of council to take it to the next level. I'm encouraged from what you folks have done. I see all kinds of common sense in the work that you've done, and the fact that, you know, you focused on the in-town trails to start with, and I think those are extremely achievable in the not too distant future, or at least to get started on them anyways. Whether we finish them in the very foreseeable future, but just to get started on, I think it is achievable. I really do, and I think it's probably something that this municipality should work towards. So. I just want to thank you guys for, and your ad hoc committee. I don't want to leave anybody out, but for the work that you've done on this was absolutely marvelous. And it's only going to make our municipality better in the future, long after I'm gone, I'm sure. So thank you for the work that you've put into this thus far. And I'll agree with Ange in the fact that it never gets old hearing the work that you've done. Even if you just repeated everything you'd already done last time, it doesn't matter, because it's refreshing to hear the amount of work that's been done in this, and the fact that you've put us in a position where we can move forward on this. So I just want to thank you for that. So I will suggest, if there's nothing else, that we do receive the information for the presentation from the Ad Hoc Trails Committee, and we further that council direct staff to bring a report back. And Mr. Grant, is this something to be brought back at the next meeting, or will you need a little bit more time to bring it back?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we can bring this back to the next meeting, and that would be something that myself and Mr. Nobes would take care of, and bring back a report to present to council at the next meeting.
Okay, so report back the next meeting regarding possible next steps on the recommendations presented by the Ad Hoc Trails Committee. And I don't know if you need to include in there the consideration of a standalone committee of council, but I'm sure that you sort of see the direction that we're probably heading with this, and I'm sure that you could probably include that in there.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we can include that in there, and we'll also make reference to the original motion that council made, because this will be a progression. And so it'll be my recommendation also to put steps in there that allows us to address the previous recommendation and move forward with a go forward resolution for staff and as direction.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good plan. So, Madam Clerk, do you have what you need? And, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tom. Is there something else? No? Does everyone here understand what the motion is? Yep, go ahead, Mike.
Now, you were talking about what the previous motions were and everything else, you know, what you were discussing. Now, you're sending it back to a staff to discuss or to bring back a proposal for not an ad hoc committee, a standalone committee, correct?
That will be included. That's not the sole thing in the report, Mike, but that would be included as to whether or not the functionality of a standalone committee would be possible.
Now, you're going to have to forgive me, but the ad hoc committee, and looking at the maps and what they've discussed again, all right, and we know that the bridge going over the 401, when are we going to solve or make a decision to the farmer that has already conceded that he would give portions, and Rob Sutton portions of the northern of his property, so he could protect his property on the south side? You know, that's what I like to, when there's a problem, I like to grab a hold of it and say, especially now considering what the problems that we've had on the western side of the railway, on the other side of town with some of the encampments and stuff like this. Number one is to protect the resident. The resident says conceded to go ahead and say he's going to give some portion of the north side. Ad hoc committee in his maps and everything else don't propose a road along there or a trail through there, because it'd be dead end anyway. And if the 401 takes it out, that when are we going to make that decision to give to the dairy farmers?
That will be all part and parcel to the report that's going to come back to us by Mr. Grant. And I think that's probably what Mr. Grant was going to say. But that will be all, and we have to take into consideration the previous motion that we have on the table, as well as all the new information that's come forward. So I'm quite certain Mr. Grant will come back with a fulsome report on that, as well as the ad hoc committee and how we're going to move forward. I think Mr. Grant is probably will be included in that report as well.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. So when we bring back the report, we'll talk about what is it going to take to bring the plan to life? What is the future of the ad hoc committee and recommendations on what the next steps are there in addressing the last and standing direction for council, bringing forward recommendations on how to address that, including updates on our discussions with the Ministry of Transportation, the issues that have been raised for us on multiple occasions by landowners of trespassing and encampments on the previous rail trail, as well as, priority in terms of completing in-town trails and what it would take following that to progress to trail connections. So those will all be part and parcel of the report we bring forward, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Yep. Thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? If not, we'll look for a mover and a seconder with respect to the motion that will be on the floor. And if we can reread it if we need to, but I think everybody's is pretty much tuned in with what it is. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Norrie. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Oh, seeing none. All in favor of the motion on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, gentlemen. And once again, I can't say it enough for the work that you and your ad hoc committee have done on this. So thank you very much. And nobody got hurt. Yeah, thanks again. Next up, we have deputations, scheduled deputations. I don't believe we have any. Deputations items on the agenda. We don't have any. Correspondence items on the agenda. I don't believe we have any. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. It gets us right into the administrative consent agenda. Council minutes, regular session of council, September 23rd, 2025. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Committee minutes, Recreation Advisory Committee, Municipal Heritage Committee, Market Square Advisory Committee, and the Arts Advisory Committee. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone has any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Sorry, we did the committees. Correspondence for information, items dated October 14th, 2025. Is there anything that correspondence for information that anyone has any questions or comments or would like to speak to? Seeing none. Boards and Advisory Committee's monthly report for October 2025. Anything in that report that anyone has any questions about or would like to speak to? Seeing none. Parks, Recreation, and Culture Little Forest Project. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to speak to or bring attention to? Councillor Hicks.
I'd just like to make note that I was really pleased to see all the positive feedback on this project, and thanks to town staff for contributing.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Hicks. Correspondence, Cataraqui Source Protection Committee appointment. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to speak to? Seeing none. Growth and Infrastructure, Millhouse Yard Subdivision Draft Plan of Subdivision Request. Anything in that report that anyone would like to highlight or ask any questions about? Seeing none. And the Town of Greater Napanee Blue Box Transition Report number 8, Transition Update. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to speak to or comment about? Seeing none, so we'll look for a motion that council consent to the approval of the following routine items, that the minutes of the regular session of council dated September 23rd, 2025 be adopted as presented, that the Recreation Advisory Committee, Municipal Heritage Committee, Market Square Advisory Committee, and Arts Advisory Committee minutes of September 16th through October 6th, 2025 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated October 14th, 2025 be received, that the council receive for information the boards and advisory committee's monthly report for October 2025, that council receive for information the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Little Forest Project report, and further that council will approve the in-kind support requested by the Lennox and Addington Stewardship Council, that council receive for information the correspondence from the Cataraqui Source Protection Authority at Grouting Committee appointments, and further that council of the Corporation of Town of Greater Napanee confirm its support for the reappointment of Luke McDonald to serve as area representative for another 3-year term beginning in January 2026. The council received for information the Growth and Infrastructure Millhouse Yards Subdivision Draft Plan of Subdivision Request Report, and further that council revise the lapsing date for Draft Plan of Subdivision PLSUBD 2020-013 from October 27, 2025 to October 27, 2028. And council received for information the Town of Greater Napanee Blue Box Transition Report number 8, Transition Update. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Items for consideration. Emergency Services 2003 Asset 391 aerial ladder replacement. And I see Chief Armstrong coming forward. And Mr. Grant, were you going to speak to this as well?
I'll just get us started. So through you, Mr. Mayor, as the chief settles in. For this particular one, I would just say that staff is very aware that bringing forward capital requests before the budget process is generally not something that council is interested in. What I would say in this particular matter is, as we were putting together a needs analysis for this, the chief of the fire department came across an opportunity for what we believe is needed, and at a tremendous discount, roughly 1/3 off the total cost, and reducing timelines by several years. So we felt obligated to bring this to your attention, just as the opportunity popped up, because we also appreciate that council has asked us on numerous occasions to find different ways of doing things and to find ways to save money. Hence, you get this in front of you today, but I will leave it up to the chief who has done the work on this.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. It's an honor to be here tonight to speak to you about this opportunity. We have a current aerial ladder that's a 2003 Seagrave ladder that has served the community very well over the years, but it's 7 years past its useful life as a first response apparatus and 2 years past its useful life as a reserve truck. Reserve meaning that there would be another unit like condition that it would replace in the event the one unit was out. So we don't have that here, so it's well beyond its useful life. There's safety and reliability issues. We've had instances where the tip of the ladder has come loose and detached from the top of the aerial ladder during responses. Complex, not a very complex system, but it's a manual pin that holds the tip in. And if left out or underway, it can cause a ladder to detach with somebody on there, heaven forbid. There's compliance issues in terms of that type of safety issue, as the regulations require us to take every reasonable step required to protect the worker. And this is one that I believe is worth considering. Repair costs are rising. We've put in over $41,000 into that unit in the past year and a half, just on breakdowns and maintenance. The downtime is also increasing. Last year was 41 days out of service, meaning it wasn't available to the community if it was needed. And this year, I believe we'll surpass that. To date, I think we're 35 days out of service. And last week it was out for 4 days. We recently completed a fire underwriter's service rating where we were successful in achieving a commercial rating for the town, the urban area of the town, and a residential rating for the rural area of the town. And as such, it's contingent on having apparatus that are within the standards for useful life, which is 15 to 20 years for both pumpers and aerial apparatuses. And because we were intending on bringing this forward in the 2027 or 2026 capital budget, pardon me, that it was considered to be on its way out. So therefore they granted the rating. We've come across this below market opportunity in doing our research actually in advance of the capital budget. And some of our market research has shown that it's an aerials around 2.7 to can be over $3 million. And the delivery date on such units are 36 to 48 months. And as such, with an aerial that's already 22 years old, if we had to wait another 3 or 4 years for that, we would be in the 25 to 26 year range for that life of that truck, and with continued breakdowns and maintenance issues, notwithstanding the safety issues I talked about earlier. Really, I think it's, I feel like I'm coming here before the budget sessions, but this opportunity came up, and the opportunity to save $600,000 or $700,000 was worth bringing forward. And with that, I'll be open to any questions, Your Worship.
Great, thank you, Chief. Is there any questions or comments for the chief? Councilor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, did I hear you say this was going to be a budget ask for this coming year?
We had identified in our planning and preparation for the 2026 budget, for the mayor's budget, to have that in as a capital replacement for this asset. Yes.
Okay. It does appear to me, this is 2025 and you're talking about 2003 vehicle, so you're 22 years old or whatever. So that sounds reasonable that it needs to be replaced to me.
That's correct. It's 22 years old and it's beyond its useful life. And the maintenance issues have become more concerning and have increased from 24 to 25.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. I think I got a question from Councilor Shank.
Now, my question is for Ellen. I always go on the budget, the needs, the wants, the wishes. Well, this is definitely a need, understandably, but so the $290,000, all right, annual repayment for 10 years. How are you going to pay for that? Or how are we going to pay for that?
Thank you, through your worship. So just to preference those numbers, I was speaking with the lending agency today and they have indicated that the interest rate likely would be closer to 5% rather than the 7%, which is listed in the report. So I'm just going to reference updated numbers for the conversation. So the annual payment of $290,000, if we can get financing at 5% rather than the 70, is coming in at $265,000. So currently we have a drafted capital budget laid out that could include the repayment of that $260,000. It was actually the $290,000 also that could be included as part of our annual capital allotment. So in the last couple of years, we've consistently putting towards approximately $1.2 million towards capital. So we were able to fund that repayment through the capital levy without an additional increase to the levy for that particular item. There are, of course, other priorities, but built into that 1.2, we were able to draft a sample budget that could incorporate a repayment over the 10 years for this piece of equipment. Previously, again, if we were looking at it at the 2.7, also financing them is an option, but it is significantly has significantly more expensive to do that, of course.
I continue. So reason why I was mentioning that was even at 5%, I'd still haggle them down because what is in prime is 2.5. So they're going to go ahead and you have a 2.5. That's being rather aggressive, wouldn't it be? But all I'm saying is that's your negotiation with whichever bank, and I'd throw it out there for whomever. And this is anywhere in here. I don't see what we're going to get for the old one. 1 to 150, but it's not in the calculation in the option purchase. So, all right. Yeah.
So
You're gonna have to
through
forgive
you,
me,
just to
like
add to that.
I
So
said,
we did not incorporate any resale value on the existing unit into the financing. So we laid it in a couple of different options. You could bring that, bring the loan amount down, or you could direct it in other ways, and that's an option that council could
The only
consider
reason
at a later
why I am not good, we haven't gone through the budget yet, but the point is to bring down the principal as fast as we can. So that's what my alternative was. The only reason why I'm a little bit gun shy right now, I totally agree that we need it, and I think yes, a council should approve it. But the only concern is that one of the line items from the budget that we had is what had happened prior to this council here of unfinanced capital. You know what I mean? But you have the financing in place. You can pay for it. You've already budgeted through the budget process, so the financing is there. I just don't want to make sure that there's no mistakes ever done, that financing is there for this item, for this capital purchase. And it's like 265 now instead of 290 and over 10 years. And we can fiscally do that without having without having an impact in our capital budget, correct? Because you've already budgeted 1.2 last year, Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure this is clear before you spend $2 million. I want to discuss this a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I think that that was already baked into that from my recollection anyways, and it'll continue to stay there, right? So I think the chief did you want to comment on that, chief?
No, thank you, Your Worship. I think it was covered. Would like to just add that, you know, a down payment would be required this year for 619,519.8, 619,519.8 for a down payment.
Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So thank you, through your worship. So I think it's also important to note that as some of the work on this research went through, the fire chief did look at refurbishment of the existing unit and what that might cost, which would be less expensive, but wouldn't materially advance us in terms of our insurance rating. And so when this was brought to my attention, and one of the reasons I thought, okay, we need to ensure we bring this to your attention, and I'll leave it to the chief to correct me if I misspeak here, but in order to be certified for commercial attack within the urban area, your equipment has to be under a certain number of years, 15 to 20, if I'm not mistaken. And if you exceed that, you do not get that rating, and refurbishing your truck does not count. And when that was brought to our attention, I thought that was material enough to bring it to your attention. And so the other thing I would mention is, yes, we can finance this. We have a rolling over capital fund of 1.2. It's important to note that over the life of that loan, that 200 and change thousand wouldn't be available, because that would be a spend that was on the books each year. But it would not have to go on the levy because that money is already available. We would just be committing to something in advance at a price that's listed and probably won't stay there.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Deputy McCower.
Thank you, through your worship. Quite a purchase. It's quite a savings too. And I appreciate all the work you've done on this, chief. It's checking this out, finding it out, and getting us the best bang for our dollar. I can't agree more that it is definitely needed. Every day that we're down without, we're just that one disaster away. As some of the older people in the area may remember, our first ladder truck, 1975, 75-foot ladder. It was questioned then, why do we need it? Then we had that little fire downtown called Gibbard's. It justified it pretty nice. Anytime you can do something that's going to keep people safe and keep the workers safe is well worth the money in itself. And I like what I'm seeing here, and I like what you've been doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, your worship. Chief, Pumper 821, what year is it?
It's 16 years old right now. Just do the quick math on that. It's 209, I believe it is. Yeah, or 212 maybe. Yeah.
So it's getting up there. And do the same rules apply for the pumper as for the aerial?
Yes. So being 16 years of age, it is beyond its 15-year lifespan. Although we do have a plan in the capital replacement forecast to look at that replacement in 2028 or 2027. We would like to look at refurbing that truck, because it will, as part of our replacement strategy and working with our new asset manager, looking at that truck actually becoming a reserve truck, and that's in a future report. So it would be worth the money, and the investment is around $120,000 to do that.
And not the same constraints as with an aerial ladder. It's like everything's fairly low center of gravity. Okay, thank you. And that one more question, just for those that are watching. Development charges do not apply to this because this is straight up replacement. It's not additional equipment, correct?
Through your worship, yes, that is correct.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Shank.
Just want to comment why I'm in favor of spending $2 million. we had discussed this through the Committee of Adjustment. You know, you have multi-residential now with the maximum height now of 54 feet. Now, I know nobody else here, but I know if you're going to grab a hose 1.5 inches, I don't know if they're still doing 1.5 inches, and you're going to run that up 54 feet. And if you have an attic, how are you going to get the water in there without an aerial? All right. And when you're down 1 month out of a year, God forbid if something like that would ever happen. So even though I'm a major proponent, I'm not spending any money unless it's in the budget, but this is a savings. This is a kick up. Needs to be done. I understand why it has to be done. The business plans and right, it's just not going to be in what we can pay for it. It's because of the financing. So we're not really a town anymore. We're not really a city. We're at that growth stage where some of these things are going to definitely be needed. It's just like our sewage plant that you have to spend $75 million on it. It's not because we're at only 20% capacity. You're at 90% capacity with the other new homes. So this is something that it's the pain at first, but hopefully with the other revenues that possibly might be coming in, this is a good idea.
Go ahead, Chief.
I can remind council too that you were good enough to approve the community risk assessment, and this falls in line with our community risks, both in our occupancy types and our elevated intensification that's happening in certain parts of the town. We have buildings that are over five stories, and we're now able to meet that. It has a practical reach of about 94 feet, but it's 103 feet overall.
Yep, great. Go ahead, Councillor Nark.
Just briefly, I concur that can't put a price on safety and security. I'll move staff recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Norrie. We have a mover for staff recommendation that council received for information emergency services 2003 asset 3-91 aerial ladder replacement report, and further council approves a non-competitive procurement by single sourcing the purchase of a 103-foot Kovac mobile equipment KME aerial ladder apparatus from Dependable Emergency Vehicles in 2026 for a total amount of $2,085,000 plus applicable tax, with an initial down payment of $619,519.80 in 2025 and final payment upon delivery in January 2026. And further that council direct staff to bring back a report and bylaw to finalize the approval of the financing of this purchase with a term not to exceed 10 years. And further that mayor and clerk proceed with an agreement of purchase with Dependable Emergency Vehicles, Inc. And that's exactly what you said. Yep. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there any further comments, questions? Go ahead, Mike.
Can you tell me what the warranty is on a $2 million vehicle? It's still a vehicle. You know what I mean? Hopefully it's 20 years. I don't know.
I believe there's a structural integrity warranty of beyond 5 years, 10 years potentially. I'd have to get back to you on the engine and components.
Go ahead, Councillor Hicks.
Actually, that raises a good question, and I know it's going to sound strange, but in your report, you made mention of the fact that it was losing structural integrity due to salt and corrosion on the body and the frame. Do we undercoat? Do we take any sort of annual maintenance? I know it works for my car. I'm just asking if there's anything like that suitable for fire trucks.
We have to be careful how we undercoat, but it's something I'll certainly look into. I know in the 2003, they probably didn't have things like crown, but we looked recently at crowning their wildland unit, and we found that crown was potentially flammable when set on fire. So we wanted to make sure, but what we're doing is we're being more proactive on, not to mention like some rust proofing agents. So we'll look at maintaining a cleaner machine, and we did have it brought to our attention earlier last year that the body was going on the aerial trucks around the wheel wells, and our resident mechanic advised that was part of the pre-de-icing that they do on the roads, and that's having an impact on the material, the aluminum cabs.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Hicks. Is there anything else? If not, Councillor Martin.
I just wanted to make one point. I was looking this afternoon at this, and I'd made my mind this afternoon. I was going to agree with purchasing this because I was looking at the amount of money we're going to save by taking advantage of this deal and the amount of interest we're going to pay over 10 years. And it's, anytime you can use $2 million for 10 years, it doesn't cost you anything. It seems to me to be a no-brainer. So that was my thinking this afternoon. So
No, it really is. I think it's an opportunity that we need to take advantage of, and we must be living right because this opportunity presents itself. So thank you, Chief, for doing the work on it. If there's nothing else, we'll call for the vote for the motion that's on the floor. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And I think now we'll take our 10-minute administrative break if that's okay. So. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're moving on through the agenda. Next up is the report on growth infrastructure, municipal support resolution request, Boralex Lennox Battery Energy Storage Project. And Mr. Nobes, you're going to speak to this first, are you?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. Thank you, and through you to council. So I am in front of council this evening with a very familiar project, as the Boralex proposal on these exact same lands were contemplated under the IESO's LT1 procurement round, and unfortunately was not successful at that time. And Boralex will be submitting under the current LT2 procurement stream, where the ISO is looking for substantial capacity increases on the grid between 2025 and 2028 for projects to come online between 2029 and 2030 for 20-year durations. It's expected that the ISO is going to be announcing successful projects in June of 2026. So just to recap, Boralex is proposing a 200 megawatt battery energy storage system project with an 8-hour discharge duration on the lands owned by Brian and Julie Windover, just west of 7763 Highway 33, whereby the landowners and Boralex have or would be entering into a 20-year lease agreement, which would cover the duration of the IESO's contract. The facility would occupy approximately 22 acres of land and be located approximately 1.2 kilometers north of Highway 33, so well set back from existing sensitive land uses, residential land uses in the vicinity along Highway 33. The property is zoned prime agricultural, exception 15. So this is a site-specific zone that allows the installation of ground mount solar, occupying up to 90% lot coverage of the property. So that zoning was applied a number of years ago, I believe in about 2014, under a previous proposal that never materialized. But that existing zoning continues to remain in effect to potentially allow a ground-mounted solar project at some point in the future. What this proposal is looking to do is occupy a substantially lesser footprint on the property, with it only being 22 acres, and the property is, I believe, around 150, 160 acres plus in area. 180 acres in area. So occupying a substantially smaller amount of land area with the battery energy storage proposal. The topsoil within the 22 acres would be planned to be stripped and stockpiled to create berms along the south and west sides of the property to facilitate plantings on the property for buffering and to aid in noise mitigation measures should the project be successful. If awarded the IESO's contract under this round of procurement, the project would still need to go through site plan approval process. So we would be looking at matters such as stormwater management, air quality, sound mitigation, environmental impacts, fire safety, equipment monitoring, hydrogeological, a number of technical elements that staff would be looking at in great detail prior to authorizing the construction to proceed. So meaning any IESO contract award does not automatically allow the development to proceed without checks and balances being put in place by the municipality. The site would also need to utilize an unopened road allowance at the northerly end of the property. So this is an existing unopened road allowance that the town owns that runs east-west. So the facility would need to connect into that and install new transmission lines and poles within that road allowance to ultimately connect to the major transmission lines to the east. So the proponent would need to enter into a lease agreement with the town to articulate the requirements for the town allowing the use of that unopened road allowance. Boralex is proposing a community benefits fund in the amount of $2,000 per megawatt per year. So that would amount to $400,000 per annum, and resulting in $8 million over the life of the contract, being 20-year duration. If the IESO were to ever extend the project's contract beyond the 20-year, Boralex has committed to extending that community benefit fund in line with the contract. So if it were extended by 5 more years, for example, the total amount of the benefit fund would extend with the contract as well. And Boralex also proposes a $100,000 annual contribution from project award to the date of commissioning, and that would be intended to facilitate the municipality's processing of applications, application review, inspection work, and the like. Boralex hosted 2 public open houses, one in 2023 under LT1 and one in September of this year, to reflect the increased capacity and slightly modified footprint between 2023 and current day. A number of residents were in attendance at the open house at the South Fred Hall, and the key themes from the community that came about included safety concerns around fire risks, where Boralex committed to hiring third-party consultants to work with our local fire department to implement robust safety controls. Questions around site selection, specifically why this site was chosen and not others, and where Boralex explained the strategic proximity to the Lennox generating station's high capacity transmission lines, and then general questions about the technology as a whole, as it's fairly new to a number of individuals. We understand Atura is finishing the completion of their first phase of their battery energy storage facility, but it's still very new to the residents as a whole. So overall, staff are supportive of the request. It's very much the same as was contemplated under LT1, just a slightly modified footprint, and there is an increased amount in the community benefits funds that are proposed under this project under LT2. So staff are recommending that council pass the resolution as drafted in the agenda, and I would be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Michael. Is there any questions or comments for Michael with respect to the report that's in front of us or the presentation that Michael made? Councillor Shank.
This is more comments because I went to the open house also, and their number one concern was fire. All right. And talking to the chief and other chiefs in the area that I know also, there's no concern. They have more concerns over the electric bikes where they buy their chargers from Amazon and it's not compatible and they overcharge the battery and burns the house down. So that was one thing. The other one was noise. All right. From what I understand in the research and what Boralex has given us and other EVs, or best sites, they've gone ahead and it's 40 decibels that I'm correct, all right, that they can't be over that. And when that is diagnosed is that is cumulative in everything that's going on through there. So that's been solved. Another one was lighting, all right, because people live in the rural countryside, they don't want to see sodium lights going on. Mike, you've addressed that. A lot of that was site plan. There's not going to be sodium lights and shining out everywhere else. And all the other concerns that they had addressed that people have mentioned to me about concerns in that area is that they've all been addressed. So I support this because, and one of the main concerns, one of the main questions that a lot of people did have, why are they not putting that on Ontario Hydro land and keep it all in one area? Well, Ontario Hydro, Boralex offered at a lower rate, and let's be honest, they got skinned out of the proposal the first time because they were offering it cheaper than Atura. So that's how that worked out. I have no idea, but the point is they seem a very reputable company. They seem very reputable what they're doing. All the concerns that were brought to our concerns that have been addressed. The only concern that I have is that when you're running the hydro lines down and there's 2 property owners and one property owner is here and another property owner had mentioned also about the wave, you know what I mean? There's certain, it's not just a line, but there's a certain distance back because now have those landowners been addressed or any of their concerns being addressed? Because I don't want to go from one stage where all of a sudden you have a gate open and everybody thinks, oh, it's unmaintained road. That's, you don't own it. And I can go to the back of that farm and go hunting and go this and do that. Now, is there going to be security involved for the protection of those landowners also? You know,
Through your, excuse me, through your worship, I believe you're referring to the unopened road allowance at the northerly end of the site. Yes, so that would be a matter that would be addressed under the under a lease agreement between the town and Boralex, where we would be able to engage those landowners that abut that road allowance to understand their needs in this. But yes, certainly security would be top of mind, especially as it relates to the connection to the county road to the east. You know, a locked gate, for example, that only landowners on that are using that road allowance to access their interior fields would have keys to that gate, for example, and you know, other gates that could be installed along their frontage on that can be contemplated at that time.
the only reason why I'm saying that, Mike, is because we've heard tonight a collaboration numerous times. I just want to make sure that collaboration continues, especially with the landowners that this is going to impact also, to what degree. So that as long as that's been looked after, then all the bases are covered and away we go. Thank you.
Through your worship, and I can assure that would be addressed through a future lease process if this project is successful.
Great, thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure municipal support resolution request Boralex the next battery energy storage project, and further that reference is also made to the long-term 2 capacity windows, window 1 request for proposals LT2 C1 RFP issued by the Independent Electricity System Operator, IESO, capitalized terms not defined herein have the meanings ascribed to them in the LT2 C1 RFP, and further that council supports the development, construction, and operation of a long-term capacity services project, provided that the long-term capacity services project is a battery energy storage facility project with the nameplate capacity of up to 200 megawatts within the town of Greater Napanee, and further that this resolution's sole purpose is to satisfy the mandatory requirements under the L2T C1 RFP and may not be used for the purpose of any other form of approval in relation to the proposal of long-term capacity services project or for any other purpose. And further, this resolution of municipal support does not supersede any applicable permits and approvals under applicable laws and regulations that may be required for a particular long-term capacity services project. And further, that council authorize and direct the chief administrative officer to execute a blanket municipal support confirmation letter in connection with the long-term capacity services project, provided that such long-term capacity service project is a battery energy storage facility project with a nameplate capacity of up to 200 megawatts within the town of Greater Napanee. A lot of words there too. So moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns.
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote? Yeah. And Councillor Shank has asked for a recorded vote. So sorry, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Ward 1, Councillor Shank. Ward 2, Councillor Hicks.
Yes.
Ward 4, Councillor Norrie.
Yes.
Ward 5, Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Culver.
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
That motion's carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on, growth and infrastructure leased vehicle purchase. And are you going to deal with this one as well, Mike?
Through your worship, Mr. Nate is going to join me for this report, and then I'll address the next report. Dave's going to address this report. I'll address the next one. He'll address the following, and we're going to bounce back and forth a little bit here, but we'll both be up here for a little bit.
I know you will. Go. So who's going to go first? Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Council. As outlined within the staff report, 2 leased vehicles used by the Building Department for site inspections and field work are approaching the end of their 36-month term, and the town has the opportunity to purchase these vehicles. Vehicle 23-66 has been in service for approximately 31 months, and vehicle 23-28 for 33. The buyout amounts for the vehicles are respectively $499.06 for vehicle 23-66 and $13,327.78 for vehicle 2328. This totals $13,826.84. Finance Department confirmed there's a building reserve balance of approximately $471,081.55 as per the 2023 audited financial statements. Subject to council support, a portion of this reserve could be allocated to purchase the 2 vehicles currently used by the building department at depreciated rates without any budgetary impact. Inspectors within the building department have advised both vehicles are operating well, no observed mechanical issues to report. Subject to council support, staff's recommendation is for council to approve the use of this funds from the building department reserve to purchase the 2 leased vehicles that are approaching the end of their leasing term. We are available for questions and comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Nori, and then I'll go to Deputy Mayor Carver.
Just quickly, so there's not enough time before budget to make this decision, obviously, because you got January, we won't be able to do that. So if we were to just say no, turn them back in at the end of the lease, we'd have to buy 2 more vehicles. That's a lot more money, wouldn't we? To be blunt, and vehicles that are running well. Is that correct?
Yes, or attempt to renew the leases, but I think it's more advantageous right now.
Thank you. Just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nori. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, through your worship. Why the difference between the 2 vehicles for pricing? One is $499, the other one's $13,000.
Through your worship, to Deputy Mayor Calver, Mr. Murphy will answer that question, as I had the exact same question.
Through your worship, to Deputy Mayor Calver, I don't have a good reason as to why they had different discount rates on them. They just did. So one of them had a 2.73 rate on it, and the other was 1.5. So the lease is just depreciating. So we're paying a higher monthly amount on one of them, and then the other one we're paying a lower amount. So at the end of the lease, that creates the difference essentially. No clue why they chose different rates on them, honestly.
That's what I figured. Okay, thank you. And so this will put us down to 4 vehicles left on this lease program, and when they're done, we're all done with the leasing. Is that correct?
Through your worship, that is correct to my recollection. Total of 4 after the purchase of these 2. Yep.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Carver. Is there anything else? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the growth infrastructure lease vehicle purchase report, and further that council approve the use of $13,826.84 from the building department reserve to purchase 2 leased vehicles, being vehicle 23-28 and 23-66 that are approaching the end of their leasing term. Moved by Deputy Mayor Carver, second by Councillor Nori. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. Next up is Growth Infrastructure Surplus Land Listing Amendment, West Street. And Michael, you're going to start with that one.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I am bringing this report to council in light of a recent change to the understanding of our town-owned lot fabric on West Street at the corner of West Street and Baker Street. So these are lands located immediately behind 58 Water Street West. So these are lands that would abut the Napanee River and be located west of the Napanee Crane property on Water Street. When we went through the project of understanding the inventory of town-owned lands, staff were routinely leaning on the provincial parcel fabric mapping, so the TerraNet mapping and GeoWarehouse mapping. At the time of development of the surplus land listing, it was understood that there was an intervening property between the town-owned non-waterfront property and the town's in-water property, I'll call it, and it's articulated in the imagery in the report. Once we were apprised of this, we contacted Impact because we had we were missing an assessment roll on one of the parcels, and there appeared to be an incorrect assessment for the Cowell-owned property that intervened. When Impact undertook their detailed physical, like paper title research, they found that the Cowell-owned property is substantially less in size than what we were led to be of the understanding based on the provincial mapping. So MPAC had since been in touch with provincial authorities and determined that we own substantially more land than we thought at the time, and the Cowell-owned property is a very small triangular piece of property that I'll say, encroaching into the westerly boundary between the town's two owned parcels. So staff's recommendation tonight is to revise the surplus land listing to add roll number 1121-010-010-00900 to the surplus land listing as a class 1 property. So this would have been identified as the in-water property in May, June, when we went through the exercise to determine the surplus listing. And the intent would be to sell this land with the other property that we had initially declared as surplus. So this would have been the non-waterfront abutting property. But this would make for a very attractive piece of land on the market, and staff would be eager to look at getting that onto the market and seeing proceeds of sale. One caveat that I would mention is that with valued input from members of council, that retention of the in-water portion of this property would be advantageous to ensure that no dock can be installed deep or far out from the shoreline, running in a southeasterly direction as the channel sweeps around to the northerly side of the river in that area. So retention of the in-water portion of this land would provide us I'll say the security to avoid that from happening, and allow for continued boat traffic and pleasure craft to be open and unimpeded in that area. So staff's recommendation is to add this parcel to the surplus land listing with the caveat and the understanding that it is sold with the previously declared surplus piece of property and the retention of the in-water portion of this land. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Nobes. Are there any questions or comments, Michael, with respect to his board? Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you. Through you, your worship. Michael, given the conversation that we just participated in earlier with the Ad Hoc Trails Committee, I think it would be in our collective best interest to retain enough of the waterfront for a trail. Because there's a very good possibility that someday a trail could go that far, or development of, excuse me, the waterfront itself. So I'll just put that out there, that I think this is a good example of what was discussed earlier.
Go ahead, Mike. I think we're probably thinking the same thing, but go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, what I was going to make clear is that any actual sale of this land would still have to come back to council to ratify that. So at that time, it would be, we could determine, council would like to retain a certain portion of land. Another option here is that we could retain an easement for potential construction of a trail, much like we've done with the Gibbard property, for example, through the site plan process. We were able to retain an easement. Instead of taking full ownership, we have an easement to construct a trail around that property, for example. So we could do something similar. It's either the ownership or an easement, but the boundaries of that would come back to council before any sale actually occurred.
Thanks, Michael. Go ahead, Deputy Albert.
Thank you, through your worship. Michael, is there any easement already through the Crane property or the county property or the property of the waterfront?
Through your worship, not to my understanding, no. So the property immediately abutting to the east is privately owned. There is that property is continuous and uninterrupted between Water Street and the Napanee River. So that would be the Napanee Crane property. And beyond that is county-owned property. And again, to my understanding, there is no existing easement in place on that property. And then beyond to the waterfront property, again, no easement in place today for that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you've got 3 sets of private properties to get an easement across before you even worry about an easement across the one we're going to potentially sell. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
Yeah, must be the lone wolf here on this point. On the second picture, you have the one right behind the big building. All right, there's the one square, the red square, and then you have the little yellow triangle, and you have the bottom square. My only thoughts is that I always like to keep water access. Always love to keep water access as a municipality. As a municipality grows, you're talking about trails, you're talking about this, you've heard about this, that, and every other thing. All right. The top red portion, I would sell. The bottom red portion next to the water, because we've always had arguments about boat ramps and everything else and the whole other 9 yards. And we've looked at the other one, but all I'm saying is keeping water access for future development with the town. All right, when it's needed, when it's not needed, whether it's fire access, whether it's this, that, or any other thing, I always love keeping water access because they don't make any more water. And just retaining the water portion that's in the water, as soon as the land is gone, they only make one. That's my thought on it. I would sell the one portion, but I would keep the water portion that's on the land also for whenever the town might need, because it's a fair chunk. Now, maybe you tell me why I'm nuts.
Through your worship, no, absolutely not nuts. But I would just point out that West Street, immediately abutting to the west, does abut to the Napanee River. So there is that water access right there off of West Street. If that's something to take into consideration.
When I look at that little water, I'm sorry, through the mayor. So when I look at that little green portion, that little chunk, I like land. I like a bigger piece. You know what I mean? And then you have more future development with it, whether you make it into a park or whatever, you do something or whatever it is, it's just water access that you always need. That's the reason why you have the street there, which is great, and you have a good turnaround if you need to or whatever, but it's just another access to water. That's all.
Yeah, I'll probably disagree with you on that, Mike. At least in my opinion, I'd like to see that those two properties melded together. It's going to be a much more valuable piece of property, and we're currently in the business of trying to sell properties right now. If we were in the business of holding on to properties, I'd agree with you. And if it didn't have any access to the water, I'd agree with you. But we do have a marvelous boat ramp that we have access to water, not only probably 400 feet away, or maybe it'll be a little bit more than that, but as they say, it's a block away, right? So is it zoned residential? Mike would have to answer that one, so.
Yeah, through your worship, it's zoned residential type 4 today. So if somebody were to purchase it and propose anything other than a single detached or a semi-detached on that property, they'd need to go through a rezoning, but it is designated and intended for a residential use, yes.
Anyways, that would be my opinion. And as far as retaining the waterfront, it's just that it's broken up there with 3 different properties at this point. So we'd have to get 3 different property owners to give up their waterfront, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I mean, I could be wrong. As far as the yellow triangle, I think staff can probably work on that with respect to. I don't know if the Cowles even know they owned it at one point, but I'm sure they do now. So
yeah, through your worship, we would look to see if we can acquire that and merge it with the balance of the town-owned property. If not, it's I would say any future purchaser would need to try to sort that out. It's just almost an unnecessary pain point to deal with when developing that property. With it being so small, I don't think there's any real value in it. But yeah, that's certainly something that we would look to reach out to the Cowles to see if there's interest in disposing of that.
yeah, okay. Sorry, I missed your hand there. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor Shank there. Just on either a block away, either side, you've got water access or access to water. And I totally concur and agree with you. If we're in a rural area where we got a right of way to water, we don't want to close that off. But this is in town, we've got fire hydrants with access to water. It's endless. It's not, other than that, I would totally agree with you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mike.
The only reason why I thought of that is because there was a kayaking down there at the boat ramp. They had this, they have that. No, there's no multi-uses. And as the town grows, you know what I mean, for water access or water things, what can they do, what you can't do? That's the only reason why I was thinking, yeah, I'm well aware, and especially on the other side at one time, we were looking, putting the boat ramp actually on the other side from where what really was. So that's why I was thinking, you know, in the downtown with water access, there you go. But that's democracy.
Thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there any other conversations anyone wants to have with respect? We do have a staff recommendation, but we will entertain a motion. I'm sure that staff wants us to try and give them some direction with respect to how we want to deal with this surplus property. Deputy Mayor Calvert.
I move we go with staff recommendation.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Norrie. Sorry about that, Bob. Is there any further questions, comments, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in the favor for the motion that's on the floor? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 3-2. I vote, Madam Clerk, or do I? Carried either way. So, thanks, Madam Clerk. Motion's carried. Next matter, growth and infrastructure, 12 Market Square, generate disposition, and you're going to speak to that one as well.
Yes, thank you, Worship. So we had spoken about this, I believe, at the last meeting or prior meeting of council. The offer date is tomorrow for 12 Market Square. So staff will be looking to bring a report to council on October 28th to contemplate any offers received on the property. And one of the areas that needs some attention is the existence of the generator, the large generator that's currently on that property. Staff have looked at repurposing that generator for other facilities in town. We've looked at relocating it to Town Hall property. We are coming up against a wall with finding a spot that makes sense on the Town Hall property to relocate this large generator, such that it's not in the way and not conflicting with existing services either above grade or below grade, and proximity to window openings on Town Hall and other matters. So staff are of the opinion that it would likely be in the town's best interest to list the generator for sale, since it needs to be removed from 12 Market property and it's not really useful anywhere else. It would be most likely, in our opinion, best to sell that and capture some gains from any sale of that property. In our review of like generators on the market, we're seeing some listed in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. It's hard to say if we would get that, but using Gov Deals, we would look to see if we could set a minimum bid price in that range, just so that there's not a severe loss, I'll say, of value by only one potential bidder putting in a very, very low bid. But staff's recommendation is to try to capture some remaining value in this asset through sale. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, Mike. Is there any questions or comments with respect to the report or the presentation? Councillor Hicks.
I have no questions. I will move staff recommendation.
Councillor Hicks moves staff recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure 12 Market Square generator disposition report, and further that council declare the generator identified by serial number M12J407515 surplus to the town's needs and authorize its sale through Gov Deals online auction platform. Do we have a seconder first? Second by Deputy Mayor Calvert, and yet a comment? Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. Michael, I understand wanting to put a reserve bid on this, but I don't know that you can do that. You might be able to. What are we going to do with it if it doesn't sell under the reserve?
First, it needs to come off the property. I think we just look to relist it at a later date. At this point, we try to store it as best we can. Wrap it, for example, or get it indoors just so it's out of the elements. I believe we'd have a spot. We would be able to find a spot to store it temporarily. But yeah, we'd most likely look to relist if it doesn't sell the first go around, I would say. maybe pick a better time of year, for example, when power outages are more routine, for example, when people are looking for generators. But I think that would be the approach, is just continue to list it until it would sell.
Yeah, because it's, 208 3-phase and 275 amp. There's not a lot of. Anyways, I just figured just put it on the gov deal and let it go when it goes and get rid of it. So, anyways, go with staff recommendation.
Natural gas.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a motion on the floor. We'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Town of Greater Napanee, Blue Box Transition Report number 9, non-eligible sources, collections, options. Oh, sorry. Oh, I missed the parkland dedication bylaw. I wouldn't want to miss that. So go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council. As directed by council at the February 13, 2024 meeting, staff have brought forward an amended parkland bylaw for consideration. So as outlined within the report, the Planning Act provides permission for approval authorities to require the conveyance of physical parkland for the approval of plans of subdivision, being 2% for lands within a commercial or industrial subdivision and 5% within a residential. The approval authority also has the opportunity to request a cash payment in lieu of land transfer. Just for clarity, it is worth noting the town's preference and practices to receive physical parkland for plans of subdivision as opposed to requesting cash in lieu. As further outlined through the staff report and bylaw, approval authorities when taking cash in lieu of parkland can apply flat rates as opposed to requiring an appraisal. So this approach serves to provide predictable terms for applicants and an ease and administrative burden for town staff as well as proponents, so they do not have to retain a land appraiser and get evaluations. So again, the flat rates, just for clarity, are intended to be applied to like single lot consent applications and not for plans of subdivision and larger tracts of land. Just to highlight some of the details within the report. So the bylaw proposes some flat rates such as non-waterfront rural residential lots outside of the urban area for $2,000, waterfront lots outside of the urban area at $2,500, urban area residential lots at $2,500 as well, and a lower rate for agricultural severances where residential uses are permitted on the new lot being $800. Staff did some review of surrounding municipalities to ensure consistency and found that these rates are still very competitive. Stone Mills, for instance, provides a $2,500 flat rate. Prince Edward County is actually a slightly higher rate than that within the report. As confirmed with staff, it's actually just over $4,500 per residential lot. Loyalist Township provides for $1,750 per non-waterfront or specialized residential lot. And North Grenville was also confirming $2,500 per residential lot. So those all serve as comparisons with areas with urban and rural lots outside of Stone Mills, which we think are good evaluations. So again, the flat rates proposed and the approach to collect cash in lieu of physical parkland would be specific to single lot consent applications. In instances where consent applications were within identified areas of interest, say a trail network proposed, staff could still request conveyance of physical parkland as a condition of approval as opposed to requesting cash in lieu. Staff believe it's prudent to commence collecting parkland monies via the consent process, which currently we only require conveyance of parkland through the plan of subdivision process. Through the monies collected, the town will be able to purchase supplies and materials for the construction and improvement of public recreational lands, including trails. And monies captured through cash in lieu as outlined in the bylaw would also be available for those amenities. If the bylaw is approved, an official plan amendment would be required to incorporate the policies into the official plan, which could be facilitated as a standalone or into the ongoing official plan update. So the time could be appropriate to pass this as well, given the OP update is underway. Thank you, and I'm available for questions or comments.
Thanks, Dave. Is there any questions or comments for Dave with respect to his report or the presentation that's before us this evening? Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So I'm rereading the proposed bylaw that will be a result of this report. there's no set designation for the monies collected. So for instance, if you collect $2,500 for a rural residential lot, it goes where?
Through your worship, I can confirm with the treasurer, but we have a cash in lieu of parkland reserve fund now, so it would go into that reserve fund, and any use of the funds from that reserve would need to be approved by council. So meaning waterfront lots versus urban versus non-waterfront lots, they wouldn't go into separate pots. It would all go into one parkland cash in lieu dedication reserve fund for council's use in existing parks or new parks or what have you. There's a lot of flexibility, I'll say, in what those monies can be put towards, unlike the DC regime where it's must be truly growth related. This allows for renewal of existing parks and refurbishments and that sort of thing.
And the intent is to leave in the bylaw the cash in lieu for planned subdivision. So anything, I think it's over 15 units, is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, so there's a couple different mechanisms in there in the bylaw itself that the Planning Act can give provisions for, in terms of, once you exceed a certain net density, certain thresholds exceeded, you can start taking different valuations, like different amounts of land, as opposed to the 5%, and those are kind of identified through the process in a plan of subdivision application.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you.
Anybody can answer this one, but is our severance application, because you have a lot levy now and a severance application on a new severance, are we comparable to other municipalities around? I understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. All right, it's just another tax for $2,500 per lot. All right, average. But as our severance, when somebody applies for a severance application, then he drills the well and everything else, which I understand. But is our severance application the same as all these other comparables? Or are we cheaper or way more expensive?
Thank you for the question. I don't have the exact metrics ballparking. Based off of my experience working throughout Eastern Ontario, I'd say that Napanee application fees on a whole from a planning perspective are quite low, very competitive.
That's why I want to stay business friendly here. You know what I mean? So. Okay.
Yes, we are.
That's number one. There we go. Thank you.
Thanks, thanks, Mike. Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the growth and infrastructure parkland dedication bylaw report, and further council approve the parkland dedication bylaw as presented. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Town of Greater Napanee Blue Box Transition Report number 9, non-eligible sources collection options. And I see Andrew's coming up. So whenever you get settled in there, Andrew, the floor will be yours.
Through your worship to members of council, before you tonight is a report regarding non-eligible sources. Just to clarify, the province and CMO have started to refer to non-eligible sources as small IC&I, industrial, commercial, and institutional sources. My belief in that change in language was they were trying to reduce the amount of materials received from non-eligible sources by making it smaller and looking at just small businesses and commercial premises. And I'm just going to run you through a brief history of where we've been with non-eligible sources and where we're at now. So originally, when the legislation was written and the town was in conversations with Circular Materials Ontario, and we're getting the initial information, non-eligible sources were not to be included in any form, whether it be depot collection, curbside collection, and they would be left to their own devices to figure out how to get rid of these products that they accumulate through running their businesses. On March 12th, 2024, council passed a resolution, as many municipalities did, and jumped on board us through a letter that came through for support through the Township of Perry, asking that the province amend this and that they include non-eligible sources. So that happened throughout the province. As a result of that, the Minister of the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks went to Circular Materials in Ontario and said, you need to find a way to include these. We need to get on it this summer. You need to tell them what it's going to cost if you include this. So the correspondence we received from Circular Materials Ontario is that we were to sign on with them by October 31st of this year, 2025, to have them included, and we were waiting on a price. Staff pushed and pushed and pushed for a price on that. We're waiting for this price to bring this back to council so council can make an informed decision as to where to go with the non-eligible sources. As of October 1st of this year, 2025, we received correspondence back from Circular Materials Ontario indicating that they were not going to include these sources in curbside collection, giving 5 reasons. Capacity, they weren't originally looking at including these sources, and they thought it would put their processing facilities over the designated capacity they had. Regulatory obligations in regards to limits and certain numbers they needed to hit, and they weren't going to be able to separate the residential and the commercial premises in their numbers and their counting, so they weren't sure they were going to meet their regulatory obligations. Timing, they said that when they were talking with municipalities were saying there was no time left. And in my opinion, there's no time left for any of the options that we've been given. Eligibility, they weren't sure how they were going to sort out the eligibility of what was considered a small ICI and what was considered a non-eligible source. And then once again, always the biggest one is who's going to pay for it, and the producers didn't want to pay for it. So as a result of that, the town of Napanee has 3 options that staff are bringing to council tonight. We do have an option to still collect those materials within these options to help out our small IC&Is or our non-eligible sources. So I'll run you through the options now. Option 1 is the original option that we got from CMO, where collecting and processing of recycling materials is part of the cost of doing business. The town, Circular Materials, would have no say in that. They would have to get their own bins. Business areas would have to get together to collect this material and have it processed. Option 2, since we now have or continue to have recyclables collected at our waste sites, is to commingle that material. So the materials would all go into the same bins as they are in 2025. And CMO would look at a percentage. We don't have that number to give to council tonight. They're still working out what that percentage would look like. My assumption is that percentage will look similar to when we opted in for our non-eligible sources for curbside collection during our transitional year of 2025, which is somewhere just under that 2%. It's 1.5 to 2% of our collection is non-eligibles based on our numbers, not the actual collection. It's hard to figure out how many of them are actually using our system. Issues with that is that we would have to amend our waste bylaw because we don't currently allow commercial premises to use our sites. Not a big change, not a big issue. Staff are planning and are working currently on that bylaw to bring some amendments forward for council's consideration. Option 3 is that we can collect that material in separate bins and have a contract with a waste collection company to have that material collected in separate bins. The town would pay for that service separately. Issues with that is that we don't have the procurement, or buying power that Circular Materials has for that material. And therefore, we'd be better off as a municipality financially to go with option 2 if that is council's choice to collect those products and help out our non-eligible sources. I did reach out and say, is there an option for our community to pay for non-eligibles to have curbside collection through your contractor, separate contractor, and we've been told no. And that goes back to once that product or those products, recyclables or curbside, that those products or that waste stream now belongs to Circular Materials Ontario and the producers. We no longer own that product or are able to do anything with it. Those are the three options staff have come up with. We don't like bringing reports to the council that don't have the figures attached to them, but we don't have those figures at this time. We're middle of October. We need to start communicating to our non-eligibles who are probably going to be impacted the most by this change. And communications, as well as the environmental services staff, want to get that communications out and rolling to those individuals, whether it's there is no collection or whether they can take their materials to our depots for collection. And that's all I have on that report, and I'm available for questions.
Thanks, Andrew. Go ahead, Ange.
Well, thank you through you, your worship. So Mterra is who the contractor is through CMO.
Yeah, through your worship, that is correct. They have a contract with Mterra Environmental.
So if the local small business, and I won't get into institutional or industrial, Goodyear is not an issue for us. The hospital, the Parrott Center, those are not the issue. But my local small business, say in downtown Napanee, looks to find somebody to pick up the recyclables because they don't have a dump trailer and a pickup truck. What are the odds that Mterra will find the capacity for the pickup and the disposal under a separate contract? They won't do it for us, but they'll charge them separately. Like, this is an actual possibility, right?
Through your worship, that's correct. And it doesn't need to be Mterra. They could do it through any waste contracting company. Mterra would be the obvious one because they're already here doing that material, but any licensed waste contractor would be able to pick up that as long as they had a license or an agreement on the other end for a processing facility.
Okay, so I just had to wrap my brain around that. And then collected as commingled blue box materials. So you're suggesting that the town who's no longer responsible for curbside collection would then incur the cost for ICIs. We would collect it ourselves and take it to one of the bins at South Fred?
Through your worship, no, that's incorrect. The IC&Is, the small businesses, would be responsible to take that material to our waste sites during our normal operating hours themselves. And then the monies or the town, yes, essentially would be paying for them to recycle that. However, my assumption, and not having the numbers, it is an assumption, is that that percentage would be taken off the compensation we are going to receive moving forward for operating those depots and collecting that recyclable material for Circular Materials.
Because we only get the money for curbside residential and nothing for, and I've seen the cardboard and that's where the money is. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, through your worship, just to ensure that that money we're receiving for residential collection is only because we're an opt-in community for 2025 during the transitional year. That grant or compensation ceases to exist as of January 1st, 2026.
Okay. I need pictures, diagrams, flow charts, and values. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Councilor X. Go ahead, Mike.
It's government run. And so it's not municipalities forcing this through. And of course, it's going to be, oh my God. So the point is even if you had the option of the commercial businesses, the small commercial businesses take their recycling and their cardboard and everything else down to South Fred landfill site, all right, and put it in the recycling. there's no guarantee somebody else will take it. And if they do take it, they're going to charge us also. So we're compensating it. That's the way I understood what you said there.
Through your worship, yeah, I'm just going to speak out loud here so I understand that we're on the same page here. That materials would go in with the residential products, recyclables that CMO is compensating for us to collect. We don't pay for those bins to be tipped. We don't pay the tonnage on that. That's all done through circular materials through the producers. The IC&I small businesses would put that material in those same bins, and we would be charged a percentage based on our number of residents versus our number of non-eligible sources.
How would they know that then? That's the reason why I'm saying this is going to be such a cluster. It's going to be unbelievable.
So,
but how is Toronto going to know how much we're putting in from commercial into our recyclables, saying it's all residential? Because you go downtown and you have residential above and you have commercial below. So how are they going to say, no, this is all, what are they going to do? Leave half, take half, or, you know?
Through your worship, so it'd be quite similar to what we're doing with the being an opt-in community in 2025, where it'd be based on a percentage of that number of stops or that number of commercial premises versus the number of residents we have using the system. So we have, and don't quote me on these numbers, we have 8,560 odd individual curbside collection stops or residents using the system. We have 134, 143, I always get those two numbers mixed up, of non-eligible sources, which works out to approximately 1.2%. So in the calculations from Circular Materials Ontario for curbside collection this year, that's the number or the percentage they're removing from the compensation they're currently giving us. My assumption, without having anything in writing from them yet, is that it would be a very similar system based on overall percentages. It wouldn't be based on the individual tonnage, because you're correct. Unless we put it in separate bins, we aren't going to know the tonnage on that product.
It's going to go bad. So the point is Ontario government took over this, you know, for all recycling, producer, this, that, and everything else. But how, if I'm a small commercial business, all right, and I have businesses in Kingston or whatever, and for my commercial property, I have to get rid of my recycling, I have to get rid of everything else. What's going to stop the individuals that putting up a bin, all right, in the back that gets dumped, whatever, and have a contract and everything goes in it? So how is that going to save the environment? And that's a whole nother game, because why they don't have incineration or something like that, but they still bury it in the ground, but that's a whole nother game. But the point is wow, we're in a kind of they're in a pickle, but I mean, it's the same thing as if you're a large farm and you have a farming operation, but your residential residence is not on the same farm. They will not pick up the recycling from the farm also. Is that correct, or did they change that?
Through your worship, that's right. The language around non-eligible sources has not changed with the recent amendments. That still exists. Your question in regards to how this is going to go curbside, I've been working really close with Terra because we have some interesting collection areas. We've had talks about non-eligibles. It's been very difficult for that company working under the contract with CMO in a lot of communities that have already transitioned. We're in an interesting position that we're the last of the municipalities to transfer over. And if you read what's been going on in other municipalities, there has been issues. Our communications department, Kylie's done a deep dive into issues that have happened. She sent me a table with them all. We've been working with Terra to try to minimize those. We are going to have issues with curbside collection. I say it's we as a community, but not us as a municipality that are going to have to deal with those issues.
So can I ask you, do you know if they're going to be picked up the same day as garbage, or are they going to pick up paper and plastic at the same day, or are they going to be alternative, like paper one week and plastic the next?
Through your worship, we've been reassured by Circular Materials Ontario and Mterra that they are going to follow in 2026 our collection schedule, our collection days, and how our recycling is two-stream recycling, where we have a gray box and a blue box. I hesitate to use those words anymore because it's all blue box material in the end, but we've been reassured for 2026. We've been working with them on our stat holidays for next year already. 2026, residents should not see a change in their collection dates, the streams of recycling, or what recyclables are collected beyond 2026. That's correct. Circular Materials Ontario and Mterra can decide to change collection dates, routes, streams, how it's collected, so on and so forth.
Go ahead, Mr. Grant. I'm sure you're going to make this all clear for us.
Well, so I would suggest I agree with the team. There's going to be some change management challenges that will present themselves as this rolls out. One of the things that will be important for us is a pretty robust communications plan combined with a pretty significant advertising plan, just to ensure that people understand what we are and are not responsible for. You know, we will need to make it clear for people what we are and are not able to do, because I appreciate some people will be coming to us to maybe look for us to assist and make sense of this. And unfortunately, we won't be in that position. And so it'll just be really important that we be clear with people about where they can go for the right information, who is now in charge of this, you know, recycling more generally. And that work is already underway. You know, I will give kudos to the team. It's a bit of a moving target. But you know, we're staying on top of the changes, which have been numerous.
And through your worship, just to add to the COO's remarks there, we have a plan for our non-eligibles. We're going to hold a couple open houses. We're going to individually mail those individuals letters, depending on the outcome of council's decision tonight, with their options, where else they can turn, and try to help those residents and those businesses who form the fabric of our community out through this. But we are limited as a municipality on what we can offer them. Our only offer, if council so chooses so, is to allow them to use our depots for recyclables. Not ideal, but also not you're on your own.
Thanks, Andrew. Just so I got it clear here. It's going to be tough to make a decision on this when we don't see any numbers. You know, I mean, that's the part that I have concern with is that the reality of it is that option number 2 seems to be the most reasonable in the fact that even though they're guessing, let's face it, that's what they're guessing. That's all this is a guess, right? But we are getting some type of funding or income because we have the bins on our property. And so we can turn that into paying for the guesstimate of how much recycle goes into those bins. Am I correct there, just so I got it clear in my head?
Through your worship, that is correct.
Okay. But we don't know what those numbers are. We don't know whether it's going to be, we're going to break even, whether it's going to cost us a little bit, or maybe we still make a little bit of money at the end of the thing, right? So, but we don't know what that numbers is. Is there a possibility you can figure those numbers out? And again, I'm asking the impossible here because, like I say, it's purely a guess by the sounds of it.
Through your worship, yeah, my assumption is that it would eat into some of the compensation, but not all of it, given the small amount that are using our current system. if council so chooses, so you could set a council resolution that speaks to an upset limit. So if we were going to lose 50% of our compensation or more, you would like to staff to bring back another report. If it's less than that, you'd like staff to proceed. There's a couple ways we can do this. Staff's concern now is getting out in front of this for our community and our non-eligible sources and being able to communicate something to them in short order here.
Yeah, and with option number 2, the ICIs are still responsible for getting it there. I'm correct with that then, right? So
That's correct.
yeah, so there's going to be some pain felt by the ICIs no matter what we do with this thing. So would it be prudent us to try and ease that pain as much as possible, or just tell them that, you know, you're on your own and here's Doug Ford's phone number and he's the guy to talk to, right? So I guess it's difficult I'm leaning towards option number 2. That's the most palatable for everybody involved, even though it's not going to make anybody happy. It's the most palatable for everybody involved in the fact that it's really not going to cost us any money other than the fact we're not going to get the income for the bin sitting on the property. And we're going to turn that back to the ICIs basically because they're going to come and dump whatever amount of recycle into these bins. But again, it's a difficult call right now just because we don't know what that is. We don't know whether, you know, it's going to cost us a ton of money. Is it going to cost us nothing? So go ahead, Mike.
I concur with the mayor. We have to give them the option, and you have to have a communication strategy now before January 1st, and that's fast approaching. So therefore, I concur that, you know, option 2 for the small commercial businesses, we know what our average weight for our recycling, what we're putting in now. All right. All I'm saying, there's no permanency in life, but all I'm saying is you give the option that they have to automatically, they're going to have to go ahead and get rid of their recycling to transport it to the South Fred. Then we can tell what our weight difference are and see, then we can put a money to it to see what it is. And if it's totally atrocious, well, at least we have something to revisit and then we have some numbers to work with. So I agree, we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard spot, but at the same time, how do you go ahead and tell a small business person? Because if every commercial property puts a bin dumper behind the property, and you have parking problems now, you know, in the TD parking lot and everything else, and you're going to have a garbage dump everywhere there is, and how is that going to be dealt with? But at least it'll mitigate some of the problems that we're having, that we're meeting, because it's not legally our responsibility now anymore. But at least we're trying to putting a helping hand to help them out, and then we can always revisit it to see what it is. If it's all of a sudden it's going right through the roof and it's costing a lot of money, then, you know, hello, it's business is business, but at least give them the option. You know, they're going to have to take the recycling themselves.
Through your worship, I could just add for clarification for any public listening or commercial premises. We speak to South Fredericksburg. This also includes our Roblin transfer center as well.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Andrew, I'm looking at this document. Oh, geez, where's the beginning of it? From collection from IC and I locations. They included a table here, and they make reference to if setting out more than one cart, it's not eligible. If setting out one cart would be eligible, which then begs the question, is this an automated lift system that they're using, and who's buying the carts and providing those, or are we continuing with our small blue boxes for the time being? Do you know the plan?
Yeah, so through your worship, I would say those communications were under the previous plan when the minister reached out to Circular Materials Ontario and said this work. Circular Materials then looked and said, how can we limit the amount we're going to have to collect and which communities are going to be eligible for this? So they set a bunch of criteria out, which staff went through, and we felt that we met that criteria. We were less than 2%. It's put out on similar days. It's collected in a similar manner. Those communications now under the new plan essentially are null and void because they looked at it again and said, wait a minute, we're not going to do this at all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That clarifies.
And
it.
I'm just gonna have to jump in here. We're gonna need a motion to go past 10 o'clock. We got carried away on recycling and it's 9:57.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Deputy Mayor Calver. Is, if there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of the motion? Nope. You're not in favor of the motion, Bill?
No, I
Oh, yeah.
want to speak to it.
Okay, go ahead.
Andrew, you mentioned a number of IC&I.
No, Bill. The motion we did was to go past 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's getting late, I know. Yeah, we'll clean that up first. We got to go past 10 o'clock to get some of this done, so.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead. Yep,
Okay.
you're up.
Can I go with the other now?
Yep.
Okay. Andrew, you mentioned IC&I, the number of was it the number of actual IC&I or the number that were being picked up?
Through your worship, it's the number of IC&Is. It was some works with the tax department, some Googling of maps of town, some known areas just from being a resident here. And that was the number that we came up with that Circular Materials Ontario agreed with. We tried to work with our current waste collector to get some of that data. It's difficult for those drivers to be data collection people and a waste collection company, we found. So we weren't able to go that route to get that type of data versus staff following a truck around, multiple trucks, because there's multiples out on the street during collection days. It's hard, but that number seemed like a reasonable number, and that's the number we have used through our transitional year with the compensation we're receiving from Circular Materials.
It's just been my experience that not a lot of businesses recycle. I know working at real estate offices, they don't recycle. Matter of fact, Waste Management refused to pick up over there because we tried to get them to pick up. They wouldn't pick it up over there. I don't even think McDonald's or Tim Hortons recycle, that the town picks up their recycle. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. I know we don't, at the town in Napanee doesn't recycle at 99 Advance or the arena. So I'm just wondering, other than the downtown, Dundas Street, I'm not so sure there's a lot of businesses that actually recycle.
Through your worship, staff would agree with that sentiment. But when we worked out the calculations with Circular Materials and their spreadsheets and landed on that 1.2%, which don't quote me on that, but we're under 2, I believe it's 1.2%. The financial impact was so minimal that we didn't feel it was worth putting the extra work in to actually see. I agree with you. Our large commercial and industrial and institutional, as Councillor Hicks spoke to, aren't using the system. It's interesting when you talk about institutional, then you're looking at your OPP station, your ambulance bay, who I sit across from, they're putting recycling out, so it'll hit those folks as well. But given that it's such a low percentage, it wasn't worth it to drill down any further because the compensation difference was very minimal.
Thanks. It just struck me with the number, because I don't think, from what I've experienced anyway, there's been a lot of commercial usage of recycling. Matter of fact, our Waste Diversion Committee's talked about that many times, how it's kind of a pity that they don't, because there's a lot of stuff going into landfill that could be taken out. But anyway, but the other thing is the downtown, how in the world are they going to decide not to pick that up because commercial? So they're going to actually have to tell us, sorry, we're not picking up the commercial because the residents, because there's commercial below it. Is that what they're going to?
Yeah. So through your worship, we provided them addresses of those individual premises, which included our downtown core as mixed. And that is going to be a difficult one, not one that the town can regulate through a bylaw, not one that the town is going to have a say in, since we don't hold that contract or that responsibility anymore. So I'm sitting here, I wish I had an answer for you, but I actually don't. That's going to be between those owners, Mterra and Circular Materials to sort out.
But sorry, it's just really hard to figure out why they would refuse a residential Because if to refuse the commercial, they're going to have to refuse the residential as well, because they won't have any idea who put that recycle out the curb.
Yeah, through your worship, week 1 of January, that first collection downtown is going to be interesting. And we can monitor it and we can make suggestions, but we have no skin in the game. We have no say anymore in regards to recycling come January 1st.
Well, we do, don't we? I mean, if the residents don't get the recycle picked up, somebody's going to be upset.
Through your worships, yeah. So we have a communications plan. We've just received the email address and the 1-800 number that MTR is going to have for their call center. We'll be blasting every channel with that and communicating to residents, but residents are going to have to directly reach out to them because the town won't have a link like we currently do for garbage to reach out to MTR on behalf of those residents. It's going to be those residents and business owners speaking directly to MTR.
I get what you're saying. It's going to be a mess, though. It's going to be an awful mess.
Thanks, Councilor Martin. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just a bit of a correction. I believe we do have a recycling program at 99 Advance, Councillor. I don't know how robust it is, but we do have.
Waste Diversion Committee, check that out. It's garbage and recycle mixed together out there. It may be a recycle bin and a garbage bin, but they don't care where they throw their garbage or recycle. It's mixed.
I'll look into that for us. The other aspect is just to reiterate. So I would say, the team's being fairly polite about our expectations around this program. I think we're, given the number of changes that have occurred, I think it's fair for us to brace for impact. It's going to be somewhat challenging. We're going to do our best to ensure people know where to go. People will naturally come to us to look for some answers and some solutions and that sort of thing. And it will be important for us, for our own credibility, to remind people that this is a government program that has taken over responsibility for this and directed it elsewhere. And candidly, we couldn't do anything about this, even if we wanted to. And so that's the simple truth of it. And we'll make sure that we're as helpful as possible in helping navigate people to where they need to go. But I think that we're as concerned and confused as others, and hopeful that things will remain as they are, like that there won't be any more changes, but probably not certain about that.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. She's a head scratcher. I guess what, if I may make a suggestion, is I really do think at this point that maybe we should direct staff to proceed with option number 2 at this point, to come back with us as soon as possible with the financial implications.
Through your worship, after we sign that depot agreement, there would have to be an amendment made to that. So I guess that would be the opportune time for council to look at those numbers, see what the implications are, and then it would be council's decision to sign or not sign that amendment. So there is a catch there where council's going to see what the financial implications are before we fully agree to this. If council so chooses to go with option 2 today, then we can go back to circular materials with that information and then see what that amendment's going to look like. So
that maybe the best option at this point, because I mean, from what I can see, option number 2 is, and I'll probably regret saying this, is somewhat revenue neutral in the fact that we're not going to make any money with the bins being there, but it might not cost us any money. Even though it's not our responsibility to provide this service anymore, we are providing a service to our citizens that was taken away by powers well above us. I guess in my world, I guess that's the fairest way of doing it at this point. And if that's the case, then we're going to get the numbers anyways, right? When we go back to them, say, listen, this is the way we want to go with this. They're going to provide the numbers and we're going to have a better understanding as to whether or not it's going to cost us any money, right? I don't know, Mike. I'm not sure what, I don't think well, I know I don't got the answers to that, but I'm going to suggest that probably that will be the case, right?
I think we can solidly say to that, Counselor, maybe.
Anyways, I'll, yeah, I know this is, it's getting late and it's a discussion that none of us are going to have the answers to, that's for sure. But we got to give staff some direction here as well, because I know that they're going to get down to a pinch here too, and then people are going to start to yell and scream at them as well. So I will entertain a motion if someone wants to make one, and we'll see where it goes.
Option 2 is their only option to still provide some type of service for the people that are going to be affected. And we got to keep our commercial businesses viable. So therefore, yeah, that we give that. And then when we see the numbers, then we can have another debate and what we can do, what we can't do, or what we can help.
I think that's, so we have a mover in Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks, and I think that's probably about the best we can do at this point till we can see something anyways. So is there any further comments, questions, or concerns? Go ahead, Ange.
I'm just going to throw this out for consideration, and I know how much we all love meetings, but I think that this particular subject may warrant a separate standalone meeting. Even if it's only an hour, and it's earlier in the day, I would appreciate it. It's hard enough to wrap your brain around it when you're living it all day, but yeah, as often as you read it, it's not always clear. And so my heart goes out to the residents that are going to have to deal with the fallout from this. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Ange. And once we wade into this, I think we'll have a pretty good understanding as to whether or not it's going to need some dedicated time on its own, because this was supposed to be easy. Anyways, is there anything else before we call for the vote? Seeing none, all in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed, motion's carried. Executive Services by-election to fill a vacancy. I'm sure this one should be much quicker. We have a motion on the floor to move staff recommendation, seconded by Councillor Hicks. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion on the floor? Motion is carried. Financial and IT Services, 2026 Municipal Accommodation Tax. Alan, you're going to speak to that?
Okay, I'll move staff recommendation.
We have a motion on the floor to move staff recommendation. Council receive for information, financial IT services report municipal accommodation tax, and further that council support the implementation of the municipal accommodation tax, and further that council direct staff to bring back a bylaw to implement the municipal accommodation tax, and further that council direct staff to bring back a staff report and draft agreement with the options for the eligible tourism entity. And we have a mover in Councillor Shank and a seconder in Councillor Hicks. Is there any other questions, comments, or concerns before we call for the vote? Go ahead, Mike.
Just so, Ellen, so I understand, and Jessica, whoever wants to answer, this is motels and hotels. That's all we're dealing with, right? There we go. You go to Toronto, you go anywhere else. Do you go to any other place? Yeah, I know, but I like it when they say it.
Is there any other questions, comments, or concerns before we call for the vote? No? All in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaws, bylaw number 2025-0067 to amend community grants policy bylaw 2023-0068. Look for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Shank, seconded by Councillor Hicks. Read it first, second, and finally passed this 14th day of October 2025. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2025-0068 to reduce the speed limit on a portion of Road 1. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Hicks. Read it first, second, and finally passed this 14th day of October 2025. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2025-0069, authorized to holding a by-election. Mover and seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Norrie. If there's read it first, second, and finally passed the 14th day of October 2025. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Bylaw number 2025-0070, parkland dedication. Moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Calver, seconded by Councillor Martin. Ready first, second, and finally passed this 14th day of October 2025. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Information reports from members. Is there any information reports from the members? Seeing none. Inquiries. Do any members of council have any inquiries at this time? Councillor Shank.
I have one. I'd just like to have staff look into putting hydro in to our municipal park that we have across from Ventura. All right. And find out what the costs are and what type of negotiations we could possibly do with any vendors that might want to rent there or whatever. You know, that's the one thing.
Okay. And I think Madam Clerk has already so anyways, I'll let Madam Clerk speak to that.
So through your worship, we can provide, I believe, staff will see how much work this is. If this is something that can be a brief one pager, not a lot of effort, we can get that to you as an inquiry follow-up report. If it's something that is more comprehensive, we might come back with that.
I like things simple and clean. And so, you know what, you phone 3 or 4 contractors, say, okay, I need a line from here to here. What is your cost? What is, ballpark? What am I looking at? I have to bring something priced to council. You know what I mean? Then council could decide. Then if we rent it, how can I pay for that? And what can we charge, for the use of that hydro? So it would be, revenue neutral, or how can we make money and at the same time bring more businesses into the town?
Great. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we can certainly ballpark it, give you a high level, and if there's an interest in council there, then we would bring something back that's more detailed about what it would take, how much it would cost, and agreements and arrangements, that sort of thing. But the first out of the gate, we could say this is at a high level what it would cost and what we would need to do to become certain about the implications.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Notice the motions. Are there any notice the motions? Seeing none. New business. Is there any new business? Announcements. Does anyone have any announcements they'd like to make? Go ahead, Mike.
At St. Albans in Adolpstown, there's as everybody understands, there's a community that goes ahead and they fundraise. They're keeping the church, and there's other things. They have functions there. They have bands playing there. They're doing a lot in the community. They're trying to do it. Well, they've come up with also, here, let me just, so I say this correctly, October the 25th, they have an Oktoberfest celebration, and the tickets are available. You can contact Karen Mayville or any of those that are related to the St. Albans Center, and they wanted me to spread the message, and there we go. It's I think it's $35 a ticket or whatever, but they have this, and this, and they have a whole bunch of other things that are all involved there, and I think it would be a good time. So there we go.
It sounds like it might be, and they always do it right down there. So thanks, Councillor Shank. Is there anything else? Seeing none, CEO's remarks. Mr. Grant, do you have any remarks for us this evening?
Not this evening, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. The forward calendar, we've all had an opportunity to look at the forward calendar. Is anything in the forward calendar anyone would like to speak to? Seeing none, look for a motion to confirm the proceedings for the bylaw of the town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Councillor Hicks, second by Councillor Shank. Read it first, second, and finally passed this 14th day of October 2025. All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thanks, folks. Again, another productive evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.